Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Miss Brantley. You have a lovely hat today. I like that. Always good looking hat. Today is September the 21st, 2020. We're meeting at the Agriculture Extension Center at 309 North Parkway in the auditorium in Jackson, Tennessee. The time is about 8:31. We'll all stand. Commissioner Wall.
Today we have Deputy Zach Fitzgerald of the Madison County Sheriff's Office here with us. He's making his way to the front. He's been with the department for about 3 years now. He's also considered the assistant chaplain to the Sheriff's Department. And he's also the son of Jeff Fitzgerald, who is also a 42-year veteran, who is also here with us today. Deputy Fitzgerald.
Let's pray. Father, we come to you today, God, first off, just thanking you for waking us up. Father, I thank you that we get to enjoy your creation, God, that you made, that every day we get to see just how good of a God you are, God, just by opening our eyes. Father, I pray right now that you will be with our country. God, I pray that you'll heal our land. God, and I pray that we will turn back to you, God, that we will focus our eyes on you, and God, that our nation will be a leader in this world. Father, I pray right now as we go into the time of this meeting, God, that we will remember, God, that we are all leaders in this county. God, God, I pray that as we lead in this county, God, that we simply lead as we follow you. God, I pray that when Tennessee looks at Madison County, God, that they see a county that sole purpose is to follow you and let your will be done in this place. Father, thank you for sending your son to die on the cross to save us from our sins. Father, we look forward to heaven. God, we look forward to spending eternity with you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Alexander. Here. Arnold. Yeah. Beckham. Here. Brantley. Here. Brown Claudel. Here. Brown Scott. Bryant. Here. Bush. Here. Compton. Here. Dayton.
Here.
Ellison. Here. Gobble. Here. Hale. Here. Johnson Arthur. Here. Johnson Barber. Here. Martin. Mercer. Here. Montague. Here. Pearson. Here. Petty. Here. Spearman. Here. Stevenson. Here. Taylor. Here. Walls. Here. 22 present, Mr. Chairman.
We have 22 present, 3 absent.
2 absent, sir.
2 absent, excuse me, I apologize. 2 absent. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting? Have a motion and a second? Have a second, any corrections?
Mr. Chairman, on page 2, second paragraph has to do with the Budget Committee. Commissioner Stevenson brought forth a motion for the voluntary early retirement. I want to strike out where it says with the exception of JMCSS employees, and then there's a typo that says those with 30 years service. It should be 35. And then on the vote, we got Cindy Brantley. It should be Miss Cindy Bryant. That's one. And then on page 5, on the industrial park, Mayor Harris reported on the industrial park committee. The county attorney would like for us to put a note in the minute. Following the meeting, following the meeting, Mayor Harris corrected his statement. The price was approximately $5,000 per acre, not $6,000. End quote.
What do they do? Can we go vote on it the way it stands?
Vote on it as we post it.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Presentation by the county mayor.
We do have a presentation this morning, Mr. Chairman. Kim and Kim. The fire department's got everything they'd like to get to.
Okay, so, the Madison County Fire Department and the Health Department have teamed up. We've been working together in deployments and all kinds of things. We work pretty good together, actually. And we decided to go ahead and work together on an app. So we now have an app through the Madison County Fire Department and, the Health Department. It is on the Apple Store and Google, Play. Within that app, if you'll go to the next slide, you go to Madison County Fire and Health. And any of you that do it today will be the first. If you commissioners get us started, you'll be the first ones to do it, okay? So we need everybody to download the app as soon as possible. In there, you'll have different calendars and events, breaking news and alerts, as in if there's a wreck on the interstate and the interstate's closed, we can push that out. If Kim has any information she needs to put out there, we can push them. So you'll have push notifications through there. And then with the health departments, they have a COVID tab where you can go to COVID and check out all the different, I don't know what all aspects. Go ahead and talk about the health department there for me.
On the health department page, you can see all of our services on there and the locations of our solid waste sites where you can take your garbage, anything going on at the WIC Center, any activities that we're doing out in the community, statistics on COVID-19 updated daily, and just a wide variety of what we do in the community, and any kind of infectious diseases that are going on. You can see the stats on that.
And then in the fire department, we have, our newsletter will be on there, all our social media will be on there. You can go in there and sign up for CPR classes, first aid classes, all different of any class. We have a ton of different classes we also teach. You can also go on there, and I need help because I'm still learning what's all on there, even though I put it on there. We have the locations of all the stations. We will be putting out push notifications, like I said, also through our side for all different types of things. You can go on there and become a member. It also tells you the different services we have. These are our push notifications. That's how it'll show up on your phone. It'll come through on your phone. And then on the next slide, it shows like all our different programs and services on there that we do. And we're just really excited that it's going to happen. We've been working on this for a year? A year, yeah. And we partnered together to save you money. Just wanted to put that out there. Okay, that's all we have. Download it today. I'm gonna be checking in a minute. Awesome.
Thank you very much. Item number 4, announcement from the chair. You know, the last number of months, we've had difficulty finding a place to meet, and so we don't really have a place we can go back to. October right now is kind of up in there, isn't it, Sarah?
Yes, October and December.
October, November, and December.
No, October and December.
October, we hadn't decided yet.
In December, we haven't
In
decided.
December, we hadn't decided yet. November, we're meeting
Here.
here, okay. And the reason for the problem is that our normal meeting place, all they allow us to have in there is 37 people. 37 people, you can see we got more than 37 in here now. And the health department, theirs is being used in October, so we'll work it out some way. But until this gets back, if we ever get back to normal, we'll figure it out one way or the other. And if you'll notice on next month's meeting, there's a lot of appointments for different committees. If you look those over, if you have any interest in serving on any of these committees, let us know. And if you decide to serve on a committee, we really need, when the committees meet, you need to be there. That's some of the biggest problems we have, not having a quorum in some of our committee meetings. That's all I have. I'm sure you're glad of that. Item number 5, report from School Superintendent, Dr. Marlon King.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll share about 3 or 4 items. First, we're returning to school starting this week on a hybrid schedule. After the next 2 weeks and the week after fall break, we will have students who chose the in-person option 5 days a week. So we're excited about that. For virtual students, as you know, those families who chose the virtual options or virtual option, they have until after the first 9 weeks to decide whether they want to return in person. I'll share with you that we have already had some students in the building for the past 3 weeks, and we feel very comfortable about the protocols that we had established and put in place to make sure that we reduce the spread of COVID. Our lunch count, starting out the first week, we were averaging about 900 lunches a day. And so in collaboration with the Tennessee Department of Education, we are now providing meals 7 days a week for families. And so we'll continue to provide that. Our lunch count numbers as of last week were up around 2,700 a day. So we've gone from 900 to 2,700. But the caveat to that, when school was in session, we were giving out 10,000 lunches a day. And so we really have to really figure out the way that we can provide meals to students and families. Our lunch schedule will remain 10:30 to 12:30, although we have in-person students in the building. We will still provide lunches for the virtual and the cyber students as well. The pickup times are in all of the schools from 10:30 to 12:30. We will continue to provide meals 7 days a week for families. Transportation routes are moving today. We'll be moving over the next semester and bringing our in-person students back. I just want to share about the increase in revenue through grants. One of the things that we wanted to be very mindful and very strategic about the revenues that we wanted to bring into the system. We didn't want to apply for grants for the sake of applying for grants. We wanted to make sure that the grants aligned with our goals that we want to accomplish. So I want to kind of share a few grants that we have already received as of the first 90 days on the job. So we received a Toyota USA Foundation grant for devices and software for $200,000. Tennessee Department of Education LEAPS grant, $168,000 for 3 years. I think that averaged out to like $502,000. LEA programmatic, $125,000. Stanley Black & Decker, $36,000. Tennessee Department of Education priority schools for principals who work in priority schools, we received $49,000. Tennessee Department of Education IDEA partnership grant, it's a $10,000 grant for our special needs students. Another Tennessee Department of Education IDEA grant for innovation for $20,000. And another technology grant for about $5,000, which totals for the first 90 days, $949,000 that we brought in the first 90 days. We're working on a technology grant to provide more devices because we want to go one-to-one once the pandemic is over. And that is estimated at about $502,000. That's what we applied for. We don't know how much we'll receive, but we should be getting an answer over the next 2 or 3 weeks. We also received additional resources from United Way, about 600 hotspots to serve our families in those areas who did not have internet access so that we can continue learning for virtual students. And Jackson Housing Authority also provided hotspots for its communities and families. That's my report.
Thank you,
Any
Dr.
questions?
King. Anybody got any questions for him?
Dr. King, I have one concern that I want to ask about this morning, and that is the fact, can you assure the public that all of our students have access to the technology, the computers, the laptops, and the Wi-Fi in order to be able to continue their education at a distance?
Sure. I can tell you what we've done as of July 1 when I started on the job. We ordered computers when I got in on July 1. And we should have a shipment of about 7,000. How many? 7,000? We should have about 7,000 coming in within the next several weeks. So I want to share, we didn't have all of the devices that were needed for 12,000 students. But what we have done is provide the remote option, which we give paper package to families of those students who did not have access to internet. We did not have all hotspots, but we're providing hotspots as they come in. That's why we partnered with Jackson Housing Authority and United Way, as well as purchasing those devices for families. What I can assure you is that learning will continue, with a device or without a device. We have ways that principals are putting in place to make sure that learning continues for all students. That's our ultimate goal. The technology is only a supplement to learning. We still have textbooks. We still have books that we order every year that we're using. That's the curriculum. The device is not the curriculum. The curriculum are the books that we use every single day to teach children, and we're going to provide package or whatever we need to do until we get through this pandemic. So I can assure you that.
Okay, and secondly, you stated that students that were not able to meet the learning criteria would receive an incomplete.
Yes.
How is that going to impact our seniors and other students as they move forward with their education? How is this incomplete going to impact them, and what arrangements have been made for them to be able to address that and to get a grade rather than an incomplete?
Okay, so we're giving the grades to students. And if a student doesn't have access to internet, as you just mentioned, and they don't have access to hotspot, how do they get a grade? Do we give them an F? We can't just give students Fs. And so until we get over this pandemic and we create that cadence where students are continuing to learn and they're receiving the support from teachers that they're supposed to receive, the students will have an option to make up the grades that they failed in. So what we're saying is that we're not giving you an I for eternity. That I doesn't mean until the end. That I means that this is an incomplete until we have everything on our side right. We can't expect students to make the grade, and in certain areas they don't have hotspots, they don't have devices, and we've been in this about for students, probably the first 30-some days. We have to be very mindful, and as I shared with individuals, we have to extend grace. And giving students an I is extending grace until we create that cadence where students continue to learn and teachers can provide the right learning for them. But the I is just saying it's a placeholder until you can get this work right during this pandemic, and once we create that cadence of accountability where we are on a systematic process for teaching and learning.
Commissioner Brown.
I'd like to commend you in this short time for your aggressiveness and success in pursuing non-local funds to address the goals of teaching and learning in our system. It's really important at this point that we explore everything and everybody who can make our kids whole. Thank you.
Commissioner Gall.
Commissioner King, Superintendent King, I'm told that on this free lunches that there are people who are taking advantage, and I'm talking about an advantage of that. They're going from school to school and getting these commodities. I understand that that's a federal program, but I'm wondering what, if anything, your department is doing to bring accountability to those kinds of things.
That's my first time hearing that. And since that's my first time hearing that, let me do some investigation and find out what it is that we need to put in place, what protocols that we need to put in place to minimize that.
I appreciate it.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. King. Item number 6, report from Finance Director, Mrs. Karen Bell.
A bit of good news. I shared with you that the August state revenues came in 9.32% over, and again, keep in mind, August would have been for June. We received word this morning that the September numbers are 2.79% over prior year, which would be for our July revenues. So we are weathering the pandemic with our sales tax. I sent you out a report from Lori Nunnery last month on the hotel motel as to where that was. Bart and I talked, gas tax is coming in a little bit above what we anticipated. So many of the projections that we thought when we did the budget are coming in a little bit better, so I wanted to make you aware of that. Have the fund balance up here for you to review on our general fund right now. And again, keep in mind, this is pre-audit adjustments. The auditors just arrived at our location today, but currently we have a general fund balance of $10.3 million, so we've done really well thus far, so just wanted to bring you up to date on that. Be happy to answer any questions.
Go ahead and go ahead and take item number 11 while you're standing.
Number 11, okay. I had been asked by Commissioner Deaton to share with you a PowerPoint presentation that was presented in 2017 on the West Tennessee Training Center. We have many new commissioners that were not on at the time in 2017, so we'd like to show this PowerPoint because I know a lot of you have heard about the training center, so it's not on the screen. Up there for a second. There we go. We're good. Okay. This PowerPoint was put together by Mr. Buddy Grisham at the Sheriff's Department for the creation of the West Tennessee Training Center. Go to the next slide, Michelle. Again, talked about the need for a training center at the time that the training center was discussed in 2017. The purpose was supposed to be for law enforcement, fire, correctional departments, local government, and industry. Of course, it was going to be at the West Middle School location. Here's a map showing where it was to be located. Next slide. Shows some of the usage of what they intended to do at the time. And again, as I said, this was going to be a joint training center between fire and law enforcement. Next slide, please. Again, just some pictures of the location, the facility laid out. The training center was going to serve the governmental and industrial training needs for law enforcement officers, correctional officers from county jail, state penitentiary, firefighters, training center for county government employees, and a place for industrial partners to train their employees. Showed several different counties that would benefit from the creation of a regional training center. Talked about why training was important, and this is something from what I understand that had been several years in the development of discussion. Next slide. Justified what could be done with the training center as far as with firefighters, correctional officers, and law enforcement officials. And why that a small regional training center was better than a large statewide training center, and what they intended to do with it on a small scale there by having it local in the regional area. Talked about the quality of training that would be developed and implemented at the training center there, and some of the topics to be covered. Talked about some other areas that had regional training centers and how they had been successful both in Mississippi and Alabama. Then it talked about some of the courses that would be offered at the training center and what the cost would be. Most important to you as commissioners was what was intended to be the financial performance in the third year of existence. And the reason I bring this to you today is because there has been much discussion about budgeting for the training center, which has been non-existent, revenues that have not existed from bringing it in. It no longer has been a joint operation between fire, law enforcement, industry. So I was asked to bring this to you today to share this information because, as I said, many of you were not on the commission in 2017, and I know this has been a point of discussion as we developed the budget and as we talked about what the training center is used for.
Anyone have any questions about that? We brought this just to bring information to you. Yes, Sheriff.
I need to, that presentation was correct. And I don't know how many of you know it. We actually have still been working with the state and others throughout this whole time. The training center is not completed. When we put this back, when we put this out, this was including everything, even where our offices are. Our offices weren't going to be there. And this was going to be a 3-year after it was completed, it'd be 3 years before we would start doing this. Well, we haven't even finished completing the training portion. We did all our offices before we did the training center, and so we're still putting heating and cooling in there. We've got one hallway that's not completed. Everything that's in there has either been donated, even the labor and everything else for that whole facility. But we had to finish our offices before we could do anything in the training center. And we had training, yes, we have. But it's been a continuing talk over, especially before this last year, meetings with the State Academy and University of Memphis, and even the fire department area. I met with some of them about an additional part to the training center, and working with the state and representatives and senators across West Tennessee. And so, once we get it completed, then things will, hopefully change up some more. But we've got to get everything else put in that center. And so when we took it, that whole building, the whole complex was really a rough facility. So we actually were able to get free labor. All their work was done in-house or through the state prison system. And since COVID, there has not been anything from them because they cannot travel outside the prison system. So we're waiting, and I've already talked to the commissioner. We got about another month and a half to finish out the things that they were trying to get done, but they cannot travel, they can't do anything until that time. So what we put out is what we still want to do, and that's our plans, and we're going to continue to work and try to build this out because it has served, and there's been a problem. Law enforcement and TCI, or corrections, and others, there's probably been several thousand people go through there each year, just what we have in the rooms that we have. And so we've already started back some law enforcement classes, all the service classes, and we've had, and so that's where we are at this time. And I'll be glad for you to come out there and look, the ones that haven't been there, and discuss more what our plans are.
Commissioner Hill.
Karen, can you put that back on the screen, just the spreadsheet showing the detailed numbers for the projected revenue? I do use that word revenue very loosely, of course. So we're in year 3, Mr. Sheriff. Can you provide us can you provide us anything that looks like this? Have you kept track of the data, the training? I know you kind of talked financial management about all you do a lot of training up there, and I applaud you for the use of the building and the way that you brought that building back to life. I'm not sure it's completely your sole responsibility, and so I'm thankful for the drive and the motivation that you've shown in taking care of the building, because it has been a great undertaking, and doing it cost effectively as well. But have you kept track of all the savings or the costs that you've made?
We have a complete spreadsheet of all the training, how much we put in, how much it has saved us and saved other departments. It was kind of like somebody, I don't know, somebody in the state or something was talking about training centers the other day on the media. And, the cost savings to us is we can get quality training, more training for people in West Tennessee, especially our people. And our people have had abundance of training. And that's a cost savings. For some places, we have to send somebody for specialized courses, which we brought them here. We don't have to pay for it anymore.
And I guess that's what I'm wanting to know, is what are we saving?
We have that.
I think but I think it is right, but I want a visualization of it in numbers.
We've got the numbers, and I think Karen's got the numbers.
We have that spreadsheet of the classes.
Between our TCI, our people, and TC corrections, and our people, there's probably close to $400,000.
Okay. And I'm not being, just saying, in the presentation in 17, it was showing closer to 800,000.
So this was after we completed, like I said, we got one hallway we haven't actually completed because we're waiting on the state to finish up that, and we got the mock jail cells. We're halfway through with them, and COVID hit. And so
you're building mock jail cells?
Mock jail cells to be able to train correctional officers, and they're actually the same size as the one in our new facility.
Okay.
To be able to work with them.
Where's that going in the building?
It's in the, right off the the walkway part, we've actually moved it out of there instead of putting it in one of the classrooms because of all the racket. But it's, we've got it.
I wasn't aware of that.
The prison has actually, the state prison has actually given us all the furnishings for it. And so they're been redone and waiting to go in.
So with this spreadsheet, just the quick estimated save is 41,000?
That's not correct.
Well, I guess that's my struggle,
No,
is the
it's
information
in
you've
there. I
given
don't know
us
if
is
that's
not
the-
correct.
I don't know if that's an update, I'd have to look at it, but it's more than that.
Okay.
That's probably 1 month right there, I mean, I may be wrong, but.
Well, it's just,
Or, I
20.
can't see it from back here, but that was, I don't know what year that was.
It's like all of 2020.
Okay, so I'm not saying what you're doing is not great, okay? Believe me, former law enforcement professional, I understand the importance of training and doing it well. I guess my question is, and my statement, my concern is that we have no one specifically assigned to help you gather this data.
Oh, we're gathering every bit of that.
Well, I'm saying you're not showing it to us.
Well, I mean,
Because you've already said this is incorrect.
well, I couldn't see it here, but this is 2020, that's what we've done this year.
Right, and this is not a normal year, so we want to see what would be a normal year, so maybe 18 and 19.
She's also
Be good.
got the ones before this year that we've done, even while we were in the middle of construction, we were doing training, and we actually have those, so.
Do we have the minutes on the conversations that were being had as far as establishing an oversight committee for this? And was there any motions made? I mean, I
That
don't
was the
need
finance
to.
committee, if I recall correctly, but there was never any action taken on it, was that not correct?
Yes, sir. At the request of the Finance Committee, and aided by Mr. Winslow, look back at the minutes on that. Last year in June of 2019, a motion came from the Finance Committee, a recommendation came to establish an advisory oversight committee. There was some discussion about the makeup of the committee, and then a motion was made to send that back to financial management to finalize determination of the members, and that's where it ended.
So it's sitting on the table in financial management?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So being aware of that now, I think that's something that we could probably take up next month to establish, to be a little bit more organized and maybe bring something back. Commissioner Arnold, is that something that we could have on the agenda for financial management for next month?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Brown.
Could you remind me of the date that the training center was established, that we established it?
2017 was the presentation that was put together for the development of the training center.
Okay. Of the partners of agencies, state, fire, that we work with, can you give me a breakdown of the revenue that comes from each one of them to our county?
Spreadsheet. We actually did a spreadsheet of the revenue and expenses that has, since its existence here, and you can see the revenue that came in 2018 was $4,800. It only showed $61.84 of expenses. Now, I've been working with their financial staff to, I don't think, they're being embedded in other account numbers. And so we've asked that they pull those out and put them in the training center budget line items. 2019 had $18,614 with $4,800 of expenses. 2020, $6,260 with 0 expenses recorded, and thus far in 2021, $3,800 of revenue with $2,023 of expenses. But we've analyzed each year.
So we don't know, the revenue that comes in from state, collaborating with the fire department,
These are from, you're asking if it's from state. It's from some of the training classes, and reviewing this was for school resource officer training classes and a few other classes. Yeah, we can analyze exactly where this information, where the revenue is coming from. Yes, sir. Okay.
Let me add, Mr. Brown, the previous administration had also had a great deal of discussion about establishing a training center, but until the sheriff, till we established in 2017, that was the first action that had been taken to do anything positive.
I appreciate that. I was just trying to understand what has happened since then. revenue, what our activities are.
Right, yeah.
Financial activities.
Commissioner Stevenson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Karen, could you pull up that sheet that shows the bottom line after the third year, please? I got a couple questions or a couple comments. I guess what I'm concerned about is when you just brought up that expense sheet. However, it's got utilities on there for $150,000. Where is that money coming from?
In discussions with the finance people at the sheriff's department, they're embedding them in other divisions. They're not, we've asked them to prorate them out by square footage, and as you saw in 2021, they showed 2,000 thus far, but I'm not sure where the 150,000. We would like for all of the expenses directly associated with the training center to be put in the training center budget line items, but nothing has been budgeted.
How many expenses have been put in the training center that you would consider expenses, normal expenses? Like, I'll just use an example. We got the administrator, the assistant administrator, that. How many people is he using currently to to set up these trainings and do all these kind of things? And where is that money coming from?
In discussions again, and Mr. Joe Bradley was in on some of the meetings, Mr. Bradley is their training director, and he does work to set up the classes related to this as well as their
But his salary is not broken out.
No, and we have discussed prorating part of his salary to this, but at this point, the only adjustment that's been given to us was for a portion of utilities.
What other people are working on this training center that you're aware of?
Well, I know Mr. Bradley has two individuals, Joyce and Renee, two assistants that would work with him. We've also asked that they prorate out janitorial supplies. I know they discussed that trustees are doing the cleaning, but we've talked about expenses that are related to it as far as janitorial supplies, copier expense, copies that might be made, you know, those types of things that would enhance these classes that are offered. So we've laid it all out and discussed it with them.
Commissioner Stevens, let the sheriff may want to answer that question.
I can answer that. Actually, I do a lot of work bringing training in. And I reach out across the United States, and we brought people from Pennsylvania all the way across the country. Joe Bradley is our training officer for the sheriff's department because he has to be post-approved. He has to be in there and he has to handle all the in-service records. Renee does the same thing. They are constantly sending records back and forth and doing our training agenda and everything for us. There are numerous, the chief actually is involved in bringing training in. He reaches out, he brings it in. So we have nobody actually assigned to the training center to do and bring in just strictly training. That is, everything that we're doing is the same thing we were doing in downtown when we were down there in that dump. And so that's what these people were doing. That was even, they actually had another person before, additional, one more personnel doing the training, or assigned to training than what we have. But the training center is, we've got people bringing in just because we've made these contacts. And we've got these groups that the other federal agencies and state agencies that come in at no charge. And so we have to keep up with it. And I actually was keeping up with lots of it, but I couldn't keep on, so I had Joe Bradley because I said I want to count every student that goes through that class, whether it's our training classes or somebody else's.
Commissioner Hale.
How is the line items organized for when you're at your own location for utilities and things like that?
Everything was out of the sheriff's department, all the training.
So you
was out of the
budgeted
sheriff's
it
department,
like normal?
and so actually, I think what Buddy did on this, how much it costs to operate that whole school, when the school system had it, and that's what the utilities were. And so we have a separate meter on that building, that one portion, which we've got offices up there, and there's another part that we're talking about, we may have to add additional office next to them. But we've got one for that, which
So
actually
can you
serves.
roll up to the map of the building for the? So in this building, sketch, you're operating out of this little circle.
We're actually,
Right?
we're actually from the circle and the old gym, and then we're also operating out of the, one section of the newer part.
And so you moved into a portion of the training center?
Right.
Okay. So I guess my point and why I think it's really important that we have some oversight over this is if we're gonna treat it like a training center, let's treat it like a training center, not the sheriff's department. Otherwise, we just need to call the sheriff's department and give it to them, because this is ridiculous how we're trying to manage this process of the move, right? The move was necessary, and I think that was good that happened. But at the same time, when we're trying to manage one location two different ways, the water is too muddy as far as who's paying for what, who owns what, who's responsible for what, and this body is too big to handle the oversight. So I think that if we're not able to accomplish an oversight committee, then we should just hand it over to the sheriff to have, and then he can budget for it how he sees fit. So that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Commissioner Compton.
Yeah. Question with the savings that the sheriff is receiving during all this training that he's doing, year over year, is there been a reduction in his training lines and travel lines since the inception of the training center?
I would have to go back and look at that, but I don't think the travel training line item has been reduced.
Because just what we saw in that last spreadsheet is part of 2020, we have a $40,000 savings that has been shown. So if there's been a true savings, we should have at least a $40,000 reduction in our financials in training in that side. So I mean,
and I'd be happy to do an analysis over the last.
I'd like to see that.
Certainly.
Sure. I could address that. Our training budget has not really changed. It's probably the same from before we came in. There's lots of specialized training that we do have to send. Like Joe Bradley will be gone this next month to Knoxville or wherever they have in their training officer association. We have our sheriff's conference. We have to have our training, our required training there. We have other people from, whether it's in highway safety or whatever, they're going to specialized classes. So, but that's only a small portion of what the expenses are. And that's not the training budget. If you have to go, we've never really got the training budget since we've been there.
Repeating much of what the sheriff just said, our training budget, if you will, has been included in a travel line item in the sheriff's post division. That is where we record all the registration fees for all the seminars, webinars, any of the people are going to off-site. Their travel for that is also included in that travel account. In addition, in that travel account is our expenses for having to transport inmates. So it's not just a training account line item, it includes other things other than training. So that has run about $55,000, $57,000, $60,000 over the last several years. What has happened, my understanding is what has happened is with the training center, if we had to pay instructors to come in and conduct the training, we would have spent a couple of $300,000 maybe over the last several years to bring them in. When they come in, they collect the money from the students that are coming to that training session. That's one of the way it works in law enforcement, is my understanding. So the difficulty that I have as the accountant is how do you record that income when it's going directly to the instructor? And the benefit we have is we can send our people to those classes. The instructors come, they allow us to send several of our people to those classes free of charge. That's where our savings comes in. Plus, in a lot of cases, they will provide us materials. There's usually no copier expense because they've already run off all their materials. So anything that we can allocate to the training center this year, we are. In fact, we've got a budget amendment for this meeting to be approved. We're going to start allocating the electrical costs based on the square footage to the training center. If we do have a lunch or a meal over there, we will allocate that cost to the training center. Michelle and Karen gave us the list of accounts they want us to use, so that is going to be in effect starting in this fiscal year. Maybe that helps explain some of it.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes. Again, nothing personal, nothing personal. It's been my experience that normally these kind of things, Madison, I guess, when was the last governmental audit? Normally you have to break out these kinds of things, and if you have intermingling of staff or function, you're the accountant. I'm just going to talk about my experience and practice. You have materials, personnel, and practice. Normally you have to separate that and then be credited appropriately. Have you all had an audit of the training center last year or something like that? Just to your knowledge. I don't know if you
No, sir, we have not, and there has not actually been a training center budget per se, as Karen's mentioned, for the last many years. We're implementing that this year.
Doesn't exist.
Right.
Sheriff?
Just to follow up on something he said. He said something about instructors collecting fees. There are very few of them. The chief can back me up on there. There are very few classes that there are any fees charged. These are specialized people that's coming in, and they charge a fee because they have a training group. Then they collect the fees, we don't, but we get the free seats. Most of near about 90% of all, or 95% of all the training that's done out there is at no cost to any of us. For example, we had a group out of Pennsylvania came in and brought in a whole week-long training for our officers on the tactical, and they brought in about $40,000 or $50,000 in equipment and ammunition and all of that that cost us nothing. But the requirement is that these other departments around us would be able to participate in that training at no cost to them. So very seldom do we have groups that come in and charge for their training. Everything, just like all the feds, if they come in and like Secret Service, we don't pay anything. We had 5 students in a class put on the Secret Service on, now it's the cell phones. They came in, it costs Secret Service $5,000 or $6,000 per student. For those, they came from across the state. We had one of our people, and we ended up with about $100,000 and something in equipment to be able to use at no cost to us, and it's in our office. So that's, that's unrealized, and we can start tracking that and give you that. That's unrealized revenue that we have. I mean, because the equipment is very important. It doesn't cost us anything.
Mr. Stevens?
One more example. I'm not an accountant, and I apologize for bringing this up, but I need to ask Mr. Irwin. If you've got, why do you have transport and travel commingled with training center expenses? I don't understand that. In other words, it seems to me like we had travel broken out in expenses for actual training center as compared to transport. Why is that commingled? That's another example of what I brought up earlier. That's just a commingling there. That is a commingling.
You know, we can have this discussion for a long, long time. I guess the question this body has been asking,
Are you going to separate the training center from the sheriff's budget? Do you have, other than the creative finance that you've been talking about, are you going to create a separate budget for the training center?
It is in a separate division this fiscal year, yes.
Thanks. Commissioner Hale.
Is that proposed, or you've got it, it's already set up as part of it? Are we going to have to amend the budget to be able to do that?
There is a budget amendment in the works today to transfer money from the sheriff's post account, utility bill, for example, to the training center utility account to cover the expenses that we allocate for utilities for the year.
I really think we just need to do this in committee and then bring that information.
Back to finance. Yes, Sheriff, go ahead.
One correction on Ms. Irvin's presentation, we don't have any prisoner transport that's coming out of the training center. That's incorrect. I mean, on the train, we have travel, and that's actually for travel. People are going, just like Captain Rudder and their group goes, East Tennessee for their jail meeting for that week. That's travel, that comes out of that part of that expense, not prisoner transport. That's incorrect.
Commissioner Wall.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with you in what you were saying just a few minutes ago about we could go on with this forever. And frankly, this has been a source of contention ever since I've been elected. And I frankly am tired of it. I mean, we have taken up 45 minutes of our time in our meeting, every single meeting on this. One of the things that I think would help, and kind of going along with what Commissioner Hill's talking about, does this body not have the ability to seat a committee or oversight committee for this particular project that we're talking about with the training center?
It's going to be taken up in the finance committee, in the next finance committee.
Okay, they're going to do that. All right, the next thing I'd like to know is, when was the last time the sheriff had a conversation with the fire chief, with Chief Turner, about using the facilities and our fire department using the facilities for training and things like that?
I think last year was the last time, and we've had some joint ones. We haven't done anything this year.
Okay, what about with EMA?
We've had Jason and them, we've jointly been together before.
When you say before, within the last?
In the last year, and we may, I don't know if we've done anything this year. Jason.
All of our training is actually shut off.
So we haven't done anything.
Well, and it's not so much that I'm wondering about the training this year or anything like that, but what are the plans? Or for for allowing us, I say us, the county departments to use the trainings. I mean, these are things that the committee, that an oversight committee, I believe, would be able to bring to us, to be able to report and be the go-between to be able to settle some of these issues without having to take up.
That is something, and that, when Chief Turner and I worked on all this plan with the state, we've had numerous meetings trying to get, work it out, and he can speak to this with the fire academy about bringing instructors in here on weekends to do that. But we've got to get the state to completely buy in, and I'll tell you, when Governor Haslam left, he said, you're going to have to work with the other governor on that. And so Senator Jackson and everybody else, we've all worked since that time. But now, COVID, I mean, we actually had the academy in from up there. We worked with the University of Memphis. They agreed to give the academy a dormitory to use, and that's still on the drawing board.
So my last question would be then, when do you anticipate the 3-year start? Since you said it would be through.
Once we get the whole facility finished.
Well,
and that's, well, you know, the COVID goes away by the end of the year, and the prison comes back and says, we're gonna send a work group. We've got about a month on it, and so then we're actually saying we've got everything.
So first quarter 21, you think?
If we're, COVID's over with and they're back. I mean, that's our goal. We're still wanting to go back to the academy and try to work out those details, but, you know, the academy is shut down. So, and the leader's got to get funding from the state. So that's, next year that's another push that we're going to try to make. They will agree to it, but I think, in the health department, I think should be involved in training. We talked about, Ian and I talked about setting up first aid training and having an area just for them to do.
Well, I'm not in the business of training, but I think that it would be beneficial, to your case, to be talking to those people now to be able to set those things up, to be able to present.
We've already, that was Lynn and I, we talked about that way back. And setting up this for that type of training.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept this report and move on to the next agenda.
I agree. Item number 7. Report from county officials, standing special committees, and old business, action thereof by this body. Commissioner Bush.
Highway Committee met on September 9th, and there's a speed study done at Bachelor Road. Committee recommended posting a 30-mile-per-hour speed limit on Bachelor Road.
Committee recommendation?
Yes.
No second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Commissioner Johnson.
I have some positive news, and I'm glad of that. We have cables and communication. We have been a committee now for several years, and we really got started last year when Vice President Billy Gordon, who is the Vice President of the Southwest Electric, met with us and worked on it, and we didn't get, and Governor Lee, he gave grant money for cable and communication, and I'm really excited about it because Billy emailed me and said, we want Madison County to apply for this grant this year, that we want to come to Madison County this year in 2021. And you know, we have a lot of people that live in rural Madison County. Probably almost every commissioner has an outer band around the city. So I'm just really, really excited about it. And we couldn't wait until next month because it has to be in before October the 10th, I think. And so anyway, we got together and we planned it all out, and I just want to thank Steve because he did a lot of the work. But he told us we had lots of points and that he really, I mean, I'm just really excited when he called me and told me all that. And the reason he wants us to start on it, to do it now, is because when they come in to look for grant money, to give grant money, they want the community to be ready. They call it community ready. So all the paperwork, I think, is done, and it's Steve helped us. He did a great job.
How much is the grant for?
We don't know yet. We don't know. We just know that he said he wanted us to.
Is this a matching grant?
No. Is Billy here? Billy? I told y'all this once before.
Billy, you don't come up front here.
I told y'all it was free, but 2 or 3 people said nothing is free. So Billy, how much is it gonna cost us?
So briefly, the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development has broadband grants. This is the 4th round this year that'll be submitted. And Southwest Electric has submitted in previous years for Haywood County, Hardeman County, and Chester County. This year, we'd like to submit a grant to the state of Tennessee for parts of Madison County. Southwest Electric will submit the grant. Southwest Electric will match the funding at 50%. What the Cable and Communications Committee approved is the adoption of Broadband Ready's community. And what that means is that the county will not impede Southwest in any form or fashion. And the grant is scored, and out of 215 points, 10 points are awarded for broadband-ready communities, and 47 counties in the state have already done that. So there's no obligation to the county aside from not impeding any construction or anything that we're going to do out in rural areas to bring fiber-based broadband. But this gives us extra points on the grant that Southwest Electric will be submitting.
Is this a committee recommendation?
Yes. Wait a minute, I'm not
Committee.
finished. I'm not finished. We had to get a resolution up, and I want to thank the committee, the resolution committee, because it was kind of hurried. And then Billy sent something to Steve to help him. He had to write something up too. And so Steve did that, and we have everything in order, and so we need to vote on it today. Steve, do you have anything you want to say?
No, ma'am. Just other than just, obviously, it does require a resolution, so you need to pass, if you would decide to do this, you need to pass the resolution that was submitted last week. It's on the board here.
Yeah, and I want to thank Sarah because she helped us get it all together too.
So we voted on the resolution.
We do need to vote on it today, so.
It's committee recommendation, no second required. We're voting on the resolution. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Oh, Billy, you never did say yes or no, I think the county's gonna have to pay, did you?
No money, Southwest Electric Tax Program.
Did you hear that, Gary?
Commissioner Gobble?
I don't believe it's.
What part of Madison County, you said park, what part is not talking
The state of Tennessee recognizes the outlying areas. There's a map that's produced. You can go to the Tennessee Department of Economic Community Development. Rural areas out Beach Bluff area and east of that. There's also several areas out around Denmark, Mercer community. So those are the areas that we'll be applying for grants for. And we will not apply for the entire county. We'll apply for the locations that best meet the state's criteria. And I hope to continue to submit subsequent grants year after year.
Thank you. Any other committee reports? Commissioner Compton?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Legislative Resolution Committee met, and we did take up 3 resolutions. They are on the agenda, but we will take them as a committee report because they were all 3 committee recommendations. The first of which is item 16 on the agenda, and it's a resolution to adopt the Madison County Construction Guide. That is a committee recommendation, and I know Jeff Clark is here, and he and Attorney Maroney has been working on this for the better part of the last 2 years. And with that, I would ask you to recognize Jeff and Attorney Maroney with any discussion or any questions about.
Is this a committee recommendation?
It is a committee recommendation.
Let me get on the floor. The committee recommendation, no second required. Discussion. Jeff. Come on up front, Jeff.
Come up front.
Yeah, we can't hear you back there.
So the construction guide that's been submitted to the committee is part of a required action by Madison County. State of Tennessee, TCA requires that Madison County remain within 7 years of the latest current published code edition. We are now on the 2012 standards. The 2021 comes out this month. We have to be in compliance with the state of Tennessee by January 1st, 2021. This also requires a 90-day posting. So this has to be known by the public for 90 days before it puts into effect. So passage at this meeting is important for us to be in compliance by January the 1st of 2021. This guide was also put together because in previous adoptions, you guys really never knew what we were adopting, whether it was fees or whether it was regulations, state laws, licensing, whatever it was. So working with this package for 2 years is kind of putting everything together just to bring transparency to the department where you guys can see why we enforce the licensing regulations and the permits the way we do. There are also fees in here that have been reduced. To apply for a home-based business in Madison County, that fee is $200. That fee is charged $200 because it always went before Board of Zoning Appeals and it always had to get published through the Jackson Sun for public notice before those meetings. Through committee recommendation the other day, we have decreased that fee from $200 down to $50. That saves 100% of the business applicants who are applying for a home-based occupation in Madison County a total of $150 per application. We have seen during the times of COVID an increase in people creating home-based businesses. Along with those decreases, there's things in there like residential building permits. They on average will decrease by $15 per application, maybe a minimum of 5. I have shown examples in a package that I sent to the commissioner, or an email I sent out to the commissioners over the weekend, and where mobile home permits, they were once charged by the same standard as new residential construction. I showed an example in a meeting the other day to show that there was a mobile home permit that was $382. The reduction in fees I have proposed makes that mobile home permit fee $200 per application. That would have saved that one individual $182 on their permit for their mobile home. There's no reason why mobile homes, people who are installing mobile homes should have to pay the same permit fees as residential construction. The amount of inspections that we do for mobile homes does not even compare to how many times we're out on residential construction. So there's a lot of fees in here that have been reduced. There's a lot of stuff in here that's informational for you guys. Once this gets published on our website, upon you guys passing it, there will be hyperlinks in here, so if they want to go to the state websites and look at their information, all they gotta do is click on that and go to those.
Jeff, I think the question has been, I think there was some misunderstanding, probably, or not understanding totally how it's presented, but what you're telling us today is that a large portion of this, the fees have been reduced. Have you got any examples of fees being increased?
There are some, but they will relate to probably less than 1% of the total permits that we actually issue. The fees will affect at least, the reduction in fees will affect at least 95% of our permits and giving a reduction in permit fees.
Commissioner Hale.
That was along my question, line of questioning. For the increases, what's the cause of the increase, and what, is it commercial focused, or where is the increase happening?
Most of it is commercial focused. What I do as the department head for that department, I sit down and I try to say, you know what, our permit fees should pay for the operation cost of the building department. The building department should not operate off of every general taxpayer in Madison County to be funded. So we sit down and we say, hey, on some of these commercial projects that seem very small in cost, there's no architects, there's no engineers, there's no designers on these projects. We become the designers. The individual, they usually don't hire a contractor, so they're trying to do it themselves because under 25,000 projects, the state does not require a license for building. So when they go out and perform these, we have a lot more legwork and footwork and inspection times on jobs and site meetings and sitting down and designing. And I've sit down with these figures and I've tried to say, okay, what does it cost an inspector per hour to be there? What does it cost to take a vehicle from downtown Jackson to Mercer, several trips? Things like that, just to kind of recalculate. Most of these ones that have an increase, they won't increase no more than $5, $10 for the total permit cost. Or, there's that option of throwing the re-inspection fees and they're charging them $30 per trip, which I choose not to do. I would rather have a small increase than I would start charging somebody $30 per trip, which could result in hundreds of dollars more in fees.
One last question. So if we didn't pass this today, would we be in violation of something?
Yes, you'd be in violation through the orders to the state Tennessee Fire Marshal's office, in which they could turn around and say Madison County is not in compliance, cease and desist all activities, and what would happen at that point? They would shut the building department down for being out of compliance, and the state of Tennessee would come in and take over the jurisdiction for inspections, and you guys in this body would have no say-so about the construction in this area.
Okay. So one thing I might just make a point, I'm not being you specifically, because I think a lot of directors do this, and I wouldn't say it's not accusing you of it, using it as a strategy to force this through, but anytime you bring something to us at this level of change, I would love it to not be, hey, do this, or it's a big problem. Because that puts a lot of pressure on us to move forward on something that not a lot of us have seen. I trust the committee, probably did a great job vetting it, and so plan to support the committee's recommendation. But it is a little frustrating to say, hey, you got one shot at it or we're in trouble, you know what I mean? And so just as a future for all directors, give us as much notice and ability to understand what we're voting on the day we have to vote. Kind of.
I've actually been, like I said, been working on this package for about 2 years. The intention was to bring this package to you guys a lot sooner, but 2020 and COVID and everything was just kind of held up. I want to let you know that there is a board that is required by code that should have been created before I ever come to Madison County for things like appeals and code adoptions and stuff like that. This board is also in this package, and it would be created by the mayor appointing people to the board. This would allow members of the public, architects, engineers, plumbers, electricians, builders, people that are knowledgeable in the trade, to sit down with me over maybe a 6-month time to actually review these code standards individually to go through this package and review it versus it going to a legislative resolutions committee where it's historically went, but it's not the appropriate place for it.
Commissioner Stevens.
I just want to make it clear, sort of go along with what Commissioner Hale said. If we approve what we have now, we're going to be fine, and then we can come back next year and make changes individually. Can we do that?
Changes to?
Well, I just use an example.
If you're talking about fees, yes, sir.
Pressure test or repairs, you have a $30 minimum fee. Now, I guess my question is how many tests are you having to go back the second time to someone's house out in Mercer or Meaden to go out there and do a pressure test for the second time? In other words, you've got $25 for one test, but you've only got $30 for two. I guess what I'm trying to say is, have we really looked closely at these fees, the ones that you've increased? Is that going to be enough money to cover what you're, and the answer from our conversation previously is no. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, I don't want to approve something when we have some things that we could tweak, like what Commissioner Hale was talking about.
To answer your question, yes, we can go back and address those fees at any time after this. As far as the fees go with those permits, you know, raising the fee a little bit goes a long way across the board, because to answer your question on that part, we spend probably 85 to 90% of those inspections, we make 2 trips at least.
If I could just add on to the answer, yes, you can. The discussion about 7 years, I don't want there to be any confusion. This is not something that you can only take up every 7 years. You just have to, the version you have adopted simply has to be within 7 years of the latest code edition. So yes, you could take it up within a few months if you wanted to revise it. But you just, because you're at the end of that 7-year period, you have to do something now. Yes, sir.
Commissioner Brown.
Yes. Trying to be proactive, could you give us a general prediction of what the impact on your availability to serve and your budget in the next 4 or 5 years with all the fee changes?
I'm not sure I understand.
Okay, your fees, with all the changes, reductions, and a few increases, what would be the 3 to 4 years down the line impact on your operating budget of what you project your budget being?
We don't operate based off of the funds that come in. We operate based off of a budget we submit to the commission and actually get approved. So I mean, our money does come through the general fund. What we try to do is say the permit revenue that we raise should total about what it costs to run the building department. We're not trying to profit or gain from it, but we're trying to at least break even. As far as those revenue numbers, I don't know. I mean, we're giving decreases on some permits or on business license applications of $150 per applicant. We're giving, there will be other breaks in there that will range from $15 to $200-300.
Okay, you're getting at my concern, because my curiosity was that if the revenue, and I want to be friendly to taxpayers, if the revenue to the county is reduced tremendously, and we don't think proactive, it's going to limit what we can give out.
Commissioner, question's been called for. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. I don't know. Who's a no? Commissioner, do you know what you're voting on? You don't know what you're voting on?
You're sorry. I'm so sorry. You're voting on a resolution to adopt this construction guide.
Roll call.
Alexander. Arnold.
Yes.
Beckham.
Yes.
Brantley.
Yes.
Brown Claudel. Brown Scott. Bryant.
Yes.
Bush.
Yes.
Compton.
Yes.
Deaton.
Yes.
Ellison.
Yes.
Gobble.
Yes.
Hale.
Yes.
Johnson Arthur.
Yes.
Johnson Barber.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Mercer.
Yes.
Montague.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Petty.
Yes.
Spearman.
Yes.
Stevenson.
No.
Taylor.
Yes.
Wall.
Yes.
Motion passed. Any other committee reports? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I had two other resolutions. Number 19 on the agenda was the consideration and possible acceptance of the Madison County Puppy Mill resolution. That also was sent out to everyone, and this was kind of stemming from the Puppy Mill.
We pulled that. We pulled that.
We pulled that one?
We pulled, yeah.
Okay.
What about 14?
14, well, we've got a resolution for the possible and acceptance of a resolution to establish a community notification system for sexual or violent sexual offenders and the fee to defray the cost. Basically, the resolution that was sent out is establishing a fee to defray the cost of the notification system that will be set up by Tennessee Code to notify the close proximity of sexual or violent or sexual offenders. And that's committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Is that 14?
It's 20 on the one I'm looking at, but the other one was still on there too, so.
That was 20, yeah. We're voting on number 20 then. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Now, 14 and 23 were the same resolution. You don't have that?
I'm looking at the agenda you gave me, and it's apparently,
That's not part of the legislative resolution, that's on the bond.
okay, that's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
We didn't vote on either one of them, did we? We did?
No, no.
23.
No, 14 and 23 go together, but that's not part of the legislative resolution.
I got you, okay. Commissioner Hale.
The mayor was up first, sir. Mayor Harris. Go ahead. Okay. The Personnel Committee met to take up an issue for the fire handbook. Tony or Kim, is Kim still in here? Chief Aaron? It's essentially just adopting and catching us up. It's really good to kind of look at handbooks every couple of years to make sure that we're kind of in standard with what the state's doing, and this is something that's doing that for us. Tony, do you have anything to add?
Well, yeah, I guess I did. So the main thing about it is, you remember we made some changes with the fire department as far as with full-time firemen and the number of hours, some shift work and that kind of stuff with it. So based on that, we had to put it in the handbook to reflect what we're actually doing. Because it changes the overtime policies for them. And so what we were having to do for overtime for those employees was not in the handbook, so we needed to put it in there. It also changed the way their accrual for annual leave, sick leave, those kind of accruals, it changed that too, so it needed to reflect how we're operating in the handbook. So that was really the reason that we did it.
This came as a committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Oh,
I don't mean to be a stick in the mud, but we have traditionally, when we change policies, we don't, they're big, in minutes, they're big documents, but we would have to change in front of us. The language and all makes all the world of attorneys, all the world of different, and it would be beneficial to us to know what we're doing. And I feel uncomfortable every time I don't know what I'm doing.
any opposed? None.
Another thing from the Personnel Committee, it's not a
Could
recommendation.
the board member pass?
Mr. Brown passes.
What we're wanting to do on the Personnel Committee is to have a better understanding of, and kind of work together with other committees like Budget and Financial Management to have a better understanding of what our debt is to our employees through comp time and holiday time. We're also looking at really just kind of understanding what our holiday policy is. As far as I understand it today, there is no cap on how many holidays you can hold on to, where typically most industries and governments, you have to use holiday time within that year you earn that holiday. And so that's some of the issues and things we're going to be taking up, and we'll hopefully be bringing a recommendation to you guys in the next few months. But that's all I had for personnel. For a nonprofit, going to be calling a meeting as chair of the nonprofit committee to look at the apps that came in, and then Commissioner Stevenson is a new member of the committee, hasn't been able to join us since with the COVID thing going on. And I just wanted to make sure that we really were at a point where we aren't able to fund some of those. I know that with Ms. Bell's report, it sounds like our projections are over. I'm sure we're still down from years past, but over what our projections were. And if we do have more and are capable to fund some of those requests, I'd like us to at least entertain them. And so just to keep the full body in the loop on what nonprofit will be doing over the next few months. So, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Industrial Parks Committee met actually about 2 months ago, and we passed last month an agreement to extend an easement for the power line, the solar farm to access the JEA substation over our property. They've asked us to pass this, and we voted on it, but they've asked us to pass this by resolution, and we have a resolution here that in essence memorializes our vote last month. And so I'm just asking, and that is a committee recommendation. They'll probably started out as a committee recommendation, but they would ask us to pass this resolution affecting what we voted on last month.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Mr. Petty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me. From the Conservation Committee, we got a resignation from Mr. Ed Smith, who has decided that he wants to retire, and I wish him much luck with that, and I hope he takes to it as well as I did. Thank you, Ed, for the job you've done, the dedication you've shown, and the accomplishments that we've had with the Recreation Department in your tenure. And Mr. Chairman, that's a committee recommendation that we accept his resignation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Mr. Chairman, can we give him an ovation? Ed has served us well and is due for recognition.
His last day at the latest is January the 4th, by the way, so he'll have an opportunity to be able to hopefully help with training his successor. And I understand we're taking applications on that now. The property committee met on September the 8th, and this Rosenwall School, I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with this, but back in 2000, this came before this committee some months back, and it was an inquiry was presented to Mayor Harris, I believe, from the people at the community on what's to be done with the school. Well, they got to digging into it, and they found out that we got the county attorney involved, and he researched it, and this property was deeded to Francis Fisher in October of 2002. Attached to that quitclaim deed was a contract that she was to repair the roof by December the 31st of '02, replacement of the broken windows by December the 28th of '03, interior cleanup and painting by February the 28th of '03, replacement of the bad wiring by May 31 '03, replace the broken pipes and the toilet fixtures by October the 30th of '03, and any other repairs that hindered the use to be completed by September the 28th of '04. None of these items have been done. The building continued to deteriorate, and their property could be reverted back to the county for failure to comply, and which the committee feels that this could create a very costly situation for the county. There is, if we decide to, we wouldn't be fixing it up. The cost to tear it down would be a costly item, and there's about 10,000 square feet of asbestos tile in that, which could be very costly. In the meantime, Ms. Fisher has passed away, and there's some time back, and now there's 6 heirs to that property. And until recently, I don't think that they were aware of the contract that existed, and they've been made aware of it in recent months. But so no action was ever taken by anybody. No action was taken by this body to pursue any corrective action on the thing. So it's now 18 years later, and I might add that the property taxes have been paid and very current even to this day. So we have there's 2 or 3 options we can do. Number one, we could declare non-compliant and take the property back over, and then we're faced with what to do with it from that point on. There's trees from piles of dirt on the roof that's accumulated over here. There's trees growing out that's dirt. There's window unit sections that are just completely falling out of it. It's just a shell of a building. So 10,000 square foot of roofing in itself will be in excess of $100,000. So there's that option. And another option would be to exercise the action against the heirs to maybe work out and reset a new time schedule on getting these items completed, or you could do a quitclaim deed of this property and release the heirs from any of the work on the contract and just forego any action there. And so it's the property committee's recommendation that we choose this last option and release the heirs from the contract requirement and quitclaim the property over to them. It's committee recommendation.
Take that one more time, Mr. Petty.
So we have another organization out there, London organizations, that they want that building also, the community organization out there that they want it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. They what now?
What was your question?
I say in the alumni association out there, so they, a community alumni association, they want that building. Since this other Fisher have had it for 18 years or 20 years, they haven't did anything, why you gonna quit these something to them?
Well,
If they haven't did it in 20 years, sure ain't gonna do it now.
it was our consensus that if we asked that these people that was in the area that would like to have the property, if they would negotiate with the present owners and possibly work something out. And
I don't think that,
it was apparent that I don't think that's gonna be able to be done, but it still could be. If they wanna go to those people that have the possession of it now, and address that situation, they're welcome to do that. to what you said, Mr. Chairman, to read, the committee recommendation would be to, correct me, county attorney, if we need to reword this a little different, would be to forego any, taking any action in that contract compliance, release them from that obligation, and, quit paying the deed in its entirety over to them with no contract. Binding.
So my suggestion would be to take it back to the county, take it back and give it to the alumni association, let them, in the community, the total community involved in this, and let them deal with it.
We got a motion on the floor.
To answer your question, Commissioner Petty, the committee recommendation was to quit claim the property to Ms. Fisher's heirs. And I wanted to add something to clarify the whole situation a little bit, and then I know there'll be more discussion. In the committees, this has been passed on for a few months now, partly due to COVID, but they've been talking about this for several months. And for those who don't know, there is this reverter clause in the deed. And what I expressed to the committee was, you've got, the worst situation is what you have now, the status quo. Because the status quo is you have deeded the property with the reverter clause that you've not acted upon to reassert possession. So you've created this sort of scenario where you have some ownership interest that you have not exercised, and you either, and what I suggested to the committee, what you decide is ultimately up to you, but you either need to reassert your ownership and take it back, or you need to surrender your ownership. Right now, you are the worst of both worlds, because you have potential, I'm not saying it will happen with certainty, but you have at least potential for some liability, because arguably, you should be in ownership, and if something happened out there, you've got a problem. But you haven't, you've got some responsibility without control. So you either need to reassert your control and the responsibility that comes with that, or you need to surrender your responsibility. But you don't need to have, a foot in both worlds. So what you decide to do is up to you all. It certainly doesn't matter to me, but I do think keeping the status quo is a very bad option for the county.
Commissioner Pearson.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I think that to simplify things, that according to what Commissioner Petty was saying, if the property reverted back to the county and the county took complete control of it, we do have a proposal from the Rosenwald Alumni Association to accept that property if the county would receive this property back and then deed it back to the Rosenwald Alumni Association, rather than to deed it back to the family, because as Commissioner Petty said, there are about 6 heirs involved in this, and they don't have a lot of knowledge about what's going on. So to get them involved and then leave the responsibility to the Rosenwald Alumni Association to negotiate with them, I think would not be fair to them. So if I may, I'd like to suggest that the county revert the property back, take the property back from the Fisher family, and then negotiate with the Rosenwald Alumni Association to deed the property to them if that's in order.
Commissioner Brown.
Yes. First, I'd like to apologize because when the way the month came in, I was thrown off in our meeting.
Remove your mask so we can understand you.
Okay, I'm sorry, you just want to see my face. At any rate, I apologize for not being at the meeting because when the month came in, I knew we would meet the week before commission meeting. So I missed this meeting. But at the meeting prior to this meeting.
Always the second Tuesday of the month, second Tuesday of the month at 10 a.m.
That does not help that mean. Thank you, sir. Okay, the meeting prior to this meeting, I remember making the motion, and we all agreed that the two parties, because the committee was getting 2 proposals, the 2 parties would get together and bring back to the prop committee what they had worked out. I'm not parenting the decision of anybody, but I do have concerns in that apparently there's been no interest shown to that property in disregard to the original lease over roughly 18 years, 17, 18 years. And the thing is that the quality of life and the stabilization of that community would be enhanced if somebody in that community that could maintain that. There's certain areas I really hope that we'll try to keep stabilizing. Schools have been closed down in that area. The East Park as well. I hope we would think well and not like the recommendation of Mr. Pearson that the Alumni Association would give stabilization to the community.
Commissioner Arnold.
Yes. I want to refer back to this contract. This is the legal part of it, and of course, Attorney Maroney directed his attention to that some, but there's other things in there, and I would like to read this part. Of course, this contract is between Madison County and the Fishers. The county agrees to transfer ownership of the Rosenwald School property to Fisher at no cost through a quit claim deed. Number two, to provide Fisher time to make needed repairs on the property as Fisher and the community, that's important, as Fisher and the community move toward establishment of a community center. That was some of you all, a few of you were on the commission back in 2002 when this came before our commission.
That's 2002, yeah.
2002, that's when it was deeded to the Fishers. That school closed back in 1969. Nothing was ever done. I don't know how many of you have been by there. There's just a shell, some brick walls. There's no repair of a roof or anything. You can't do that. We have people that live right across the street from this Rosenwald School, and it's not just one house. It's lined with houses right across the street from Rosenwald, the old Rosenwald School. And they have endured this all this time, and we do need to take action. We need to follow the contract that was made back in 2002, and that contract says that this would revert back to Madison County. That's already taken care of. That's the first step. We have got to take this back to the county and then decide what to do with it. Mr. Newbern, I believe, is here. He lives across the street, and I think he would like to speak before the commission for just a minute.
Sure, mate.
And so,
Let him come forward.
Mr. Newman, can you come up front?
Commissioner Arnold, what's his name?
Newbern, Ernest Newbern, N-E-W-B-E-R-N.
I'm Ernest Newbern. I live in the community. I've been there, born and raised there. And we wrote alumni. We want to, get it to make a community center out of it. We have about 30-something members of it on our committee, you know what I mean, try to get together. We intend to get grants or whatever we have to do to get it and have funds to do what we have to do to raise money. We mentioned the other meeting about the county not going to find any money. We're not looking for any money from the county. We are going to try to, do this ourselves. We want to make a community center out of it. I'd say it's just so out to the community, and we want to, make everything look better. So if any way possible, we like to, as a committee, we like to have it, make a community center out of it.
Mr. Newbern, do any of those relatives of the Fisher family, does any of that family live here at this time?
One, right there, she lives right there. Shantae, but the rest of them don't live there. I live right across the road from her, but the rest of them, Shantae don't. She lives in Jackson, but I'm the one, the others don't live there.
Mr. Newbern, if you were interested in doing that, could you have not brought this before in the years past or earlier time that to try to work out something and maybe do take this action? Why are you trying to do it today, I guess my
I
question.
I wasn't in here, I was just living in Chester County at the time, we were having meetings, but I wasn't in this lady, Marilyn Shaw, she was in, she remember that, she was in that committee.
All right.
Is part of
Any
the
other
family,
question for Mr. Mueller?
Mr. Perry, is part of the family that's here to represent?
Yes, that's what I'm gonna bring forth. Ms. Shantae Woodard is back here, and she's one of the heirs, and she can speak for all of them. She has the authority to do so. If she'd like to come forward and make something.
Thank you, Mr. Newsom. What is your name?
Hello, thank you guys for listening. As you know, my grandmother was Frances Fisher. I'm one of her heirs. She did pass in 2017. That's when the heirs became, I guess, privy to exactly what was going on with the quitclaim deed. We didn't know until then. And then that's when everything started as far as the Rosenwald Committee and everything that went through. Now, we did submit a proposal to the Mr. Petty and Commissioner Hale from the heirs. We are interested in keeping the building, and we are interested in bringing the building up to standards to where we can also make it a community center for everybody out there.
So both sides have the same desire to make it a community center?
Right.
That's exactly what.
I think they get together.
And we did submit, like I said, a proposal for it also.
Commissioner Brown.
Mr. Chairman, that's what was requested 2 meetings ago. So this meeting here should be addressing what this proposal that we're talking about. This is completely different from that. I don't know how we got going left on this.
Well, it's coming out of committee.
No, excuse me. That ain't come out of committee because the committee minutes will show that what she's saying is what was supposed to happen. This is to do differently than what was supposed to be addressed at the last meeting. We're supposed to address the joint proposal. Well, the family, if you recall, I made the motion. The family and the community would bring us one proposal. This is the harmonious way of dealing with things.
Commissioner Petty, is that?
Yes, Mr. Brown, you weren't at the last meeting. We asked them to do that, and they, we got something from Ms. Woodard. We did not get anything from the community of the Alumni Association. The thing is that when I mentioned to them that they need to negotiate with each other, there seemed to be some disagreement and maybe some problems being able to get along with each other, and we had to bring that up to address that they could do that outside of our meeting so we could get on with our meeting. Now, I wish we could have been there. At any rate, I mean, Ms. Woodard's family is wanting to do the same thing as these others are. If we take it back over into the county, then it's gonna be like Beach Bluff School. It's gonna be a constant problem, and it's gonna be, could be a very expensive item for us to address. So, that was our committee recommendation, that we sever all costs and be done with it. If we take it back over and she contests, then we could end up in a court situation, and then we try to explain to the judge why we took 18 years to take action on it. So that's been our thought.
Who's up next?
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce this part now. D will contain a right of converter. Failure to comply with the terms of this contract will result in the automatic reversion. Now, that's been 18 years. Nothing was done. And again, if you don't understand how this building looks, you need to go by before you start voting on it. That building is not going to be repaired. There's nothing there that you can repair. It's just, it's the shell of the building. It's gone. They've had 18 years, nothing was done, now it reverts back to the county, and then from there, we can decide how the county wants to handle it. As far as expenses, of course, the biggest expense and the only expense involved would be to demolish that building, because it's gonna be what has to be done before it's over with. And I would like to amend the motion that Mr. Petty brought forth and amend it that this building will revert back to Madison County.
That will be a simple voting no on my committee recommendation, Mr. Arnold.
Calm down, Attorney.
Okay, I'll address that. I want to address a procedural matter because I want to make sure you all are aware of what you're voting on, because I've heard some things stated that might be slightly off on the procedure. And again, as I said earlier, how you vote, I'm taking no side on that. Procedurally, since the property is in possession of private ownership and with taxes being paid, you can't just go out there today and plant your flag, so to speak, and start occupying it or doing what you want with it. What's going to need to happen to be secure in that is a quiet title action. And so that's what would happen. I think the success in a quiet title action, frankly, would be very high because the Fisher family has not, or Ms. Fisher prior has not met, as Mr. Arnold says, any of the conditions in the contract. But procedurally, you need a quiet title action first to get it into private ownership. To get it back into county ownership. Secondly, after the county, if you elect that step, after the county takes ownership, you cannot give the property away. You have to sell it. Now that, what you get for it is a matter of negotiation, still doesn't mean it will be at a significant price, but just as a technical matter, you cannot give the property away. It has to be what's considered fair market value. In the absence of bidders, fair market value may not be very much. But now, there's a motion on the floor from the property committee. Mr. Arnold has made a motion to amend that motion. And I believe, Mr. Arnold, you correct me if I misstate it. In fact, I may ask you to restate it so I don't mess it up.
You have to amend the motion that this property be rendered back to the Madison County.
Okay. All right, so procedurally, the next step the first step would be to vote on the amendment that Mr. Arnold has proposed and has been seconded by, I believe, Commissioner Mercer. So you would have to vote on, and I believe, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, I believe you are, by your amendment, in order for it to make sense, you're not simply amending it to add that, you're amending it to replace the earlier language, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you can vote on that amendment at this time.
Commissioner.
Is that an amendment or a new motion?
Well, it's an amendment that it has the same effect of what a new motion would be, but it's not out of order to amend a motion. So,
Amendment to nullify the motion.
yeah, and that's why you're going to vote on the amendment. You're going to have to vote on the amendment, but you're right, that's what the effect would be.
Commissioner.
All we got to do is vote no, if they didn't want to do that. The recommendation is to let it go.
I understand.
And anybody that doesn't want to let it go, all they got to do is say no.
I don't disagree with you, but there's an amendment that's been offered, so procedurally you have to vote on the amendment before, first.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay, just to clarify, for the past 18 years, the Fisher family has been paying taxes on the property?
Yes. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, but none of the repairs that were, I guess, had a suspense date of 2004 have been done?
I can't speak to whether none of them have been done, but certainly the ones that are listed have not been completed.
Taxes have been paid.
Okay. Taxes have been
Any
paid?
that have been done are dilapidated again.
I got you there. So, I mean, it's just looking over both the proposals of the heirs and the proposal of the Alumni Association. I mean, similar goal, but I think the Alumni Association just has a better promotion. Plus, I'm a little leery about, I mean, the principal heir lives in like Massachusetts, so not that there's anything wrong with that, but I mean, if you pay the taxes, but you didn't do any of the upkeep, I mean, it just kind of makes me leery about, is any of the upkeep going to be done with the heirs? That's,
Can you legally do that if they have paid the taxes on the property?
Mr. Chairman, call the question.
We still have Mr. Hale.
And does that, what expense?
First been called, Mr. Chairman.
Didn't get a second. Commissioner Hale.
He seconded.
Commissioner Hale.
Mr. Chairman, we called for the first, and he got
I
a second on
understand.
it.
Commissioner Hale.
He's not supposed to speak.
You have to vote on the call for the question. It's not.
Got to vote on the call. The question was called in second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? No. No.
No. Roll call.
Roll call.
Repeat one more time, how, what were
Vote on the question.
We're voting on the question right now. We continued discussion. Roll call.
Alexander. Arnold.
Yes.
You know what we're voting on? The question, not the amendment.
This is a vote on whether or not to close debate on the amendment. The amendment is what was on the floor most recently.
Yes.
Arnold.
Yes.
Beckham.
No.
Brantley.
Yes.
Brown Claudel. Brown Scott. Bryant.
No.
Bush.
No.
Compton.
No.
Deaton.
No.
Ellison.
Yes.
Gobble.
Yes.
Hale.
No.
Johnson Arthur.
Yes.
I'm sorry, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Johnson Barber.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Mercer.
Yes.
Montague.
No.
Pearson.
Yes.
Petty.
No.
Spearman.
Yes.
Stevenson.
No.
Taylor.
Yes.
Wall.
No.
Yes, 10 no, 1 pass, 1 absent.
12 yes, 10 no, 1 pass, 1 absent. Motion fails. Still open for debate. Commissioner Hale.
So there's a lot of passion behind this piece of property. I understand that. And there hasn't been for almost 2 decades. And so it was my motion in committee to just, let's be done with it as a county. There's so much more we can be focused on than this very problem. I understand it is a problem, but I can assure you the government is not going to be good at solving it, okay? Private enterprise will take care of it. It will. Over time, it will take care of it. And when we have someone that's paying taxes on our property, that's why I felt like, let's just move on to better things. Not that it's not good, it's just there are things that we should be focused on more than a property that's going to need at least $250,000 to stand again. And if not, $150,000 just to tear it down because of the asbestos. And so I don't see either group doing this quickly. Now together they might be able to raise some money to do it, but from what we heard in committee, no one raised any money or has any commitment to raise money to be able to do it, nor do they have the funds to do it today. And so that's why I felt like it was in the best interest of the county to be done with it and just to let the family that has it keep it. Now, is it perfect? No. Is it pursuing excellence? No. But there are times where we just need to make the decision, be decisive as leaders, and move forward, and the consequences will be what they are. And it's sad. It's a sad thing, but that's what I have to say.
Commissioner Martin.
Ms. Fisher, the Fisher family, you all just now find out about
what your grandmother had in 2017. Is that what you're saying? That you all didn't know anything about the repair that she should have been doing?
No,
But you all had no idea.
I, no.
So, was it just you, or did anyone have any idea, or did any other family member have any idea?
No,
So-
someone didn't even know she owned it.
She was the only one that knew,
She knew about the quitclaim deed and what.
and she the only one that knew about the repair. Nobody else knew. So what you all are saying now, that you all are willing to step in and do the repair, is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir, when we got, knowledge of what was supposed to be done, when she passed in 2017, and she left all her paperwork and everything, when we got knowledge of it, we started in 2017, researching, trying to see what exactly we could do with the property.
Okay, and it's taking you this long to,
It's taken us this long because we've had opposition ever since my grandmother passed. And so we've had to deal with that opposition because they started complaining about the property all of a sudden. And so we've had to take care of that end first before we can even move on to what we actually wanted to do with the building.
okay, do you all have a plan when you say that you're going to repair? You have to have a plan.
Yes, sir. We did submit a proposal and we did want to go ahead as stated in this quitclaim deed that where she was supposed to make it a community center. That's where we want to go ahead and follow her wishes.
Okay. And the last question, is there any way that you all and the other group, or alumni, is there any way that you all could sit down at the table and come together and work something together? Is there any possibility?
Please.
Because that was really,
She was willing to, and there was others there that apparently were from the Alumni Association that
The sentiment wasn't the same.
it wasn't, it doesn't seem to be the same track.
let me ask Mr. Newman, would you all be willing to sit down at the table one more time and see if you all work together to work something out? No. Would you all be willing to sit down at the table?
He said, these people in the community didn't want to work with her.
Cut the baby in half.
Let's address your questions to the chair.
Okay. I'll try to find out, would they be willing, Mr. Chairman, to work together?
Well, apparently there seems to be some competition. Competition for the property, all of a sudden. In these 18 years, there's never been this competition. Now there is.
Well, let me say this is just a comment. If the other sibling didn't know, then they had no way of knowing what the grandmama should have been doing and what she did and what she did not do. And taking that into consideration, maybe they should have the opportunity.
Commissioner Ellison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, we can talk about this all day long, but in reality, the Fishers had a chance to do something with this property. They did not do anything. So, really, they forfeit the deal. Now, the new one wants to try it. In all fairness, I feel like we should give it an opportunity. We had the same similar situation in my community, in my district. We had two sides. Because the Weasel, they wanted, couldn't get along with Ms. Pearson. We gave it to Ms. Pearson. This body said it would never do anything with it. Talked about putting the wrecking ball on the bill and everything. We gave it to Ms. Pearson. They said it couldn't be done. They did it. No help from the county. And it's still operating. Matter of fact, Madison County School System used it back in 2003. Now, in all fairness, I feel that we should give a new one an opportunity to see what they can do with it. We don't know what they can do. Somebody's gonna cost $1 million, it might cost $2 million. We don't know what kind of money they got, we don't know where they can get it from. We ought to give them an opportunity to try it. That's just my opinion. And they'll never get along, because the way you see Ms. Pearson don't get along now, as far as their building. I'm just being honest with you.
Commissioner Goblin.
I think we're losing sight of Attorney Maroney's main contention is that the county is liable right now. And whatever action we're gonna take, I would suggest that it be done at the same day that, to limit the county's liability.
Commissioner Compton.
I want to reiterate what Commissioner Hale and a little bit what Commissioner Goblin just said. One thing that we got to keep in mind here is that we have a property, as Commissioner Arnold just said, that is probably beyond saving, period. We have a group that's been paying property taxes that is willing for us to quit claim that property to them right now. That will take that, if we exercise the reverter clause to this property and take this back to the county, and the group that says they want that right now may decide before the next meeting, hey, you know what? We don't want this property because we have no idea. I don't think, have any idea what the costs are going to be to redo something on that property. It's going to be a ton of money, as Commissioner Hale said. We have an opportunity to rid ourselves of the liability that we have and cost that could cost this county. We already have buildings that we have right now that we have no idea what to do with. We do not need another property that we're going to have to figure out how to tear down in the future with money that we don't have. We have an opportunity to quit claim this property, keep it on the tax roll. If we revert this thing back to us, we take it off the tax roll, and we have a greater risk and a greater liability going into the future. Maybe the other group takes it, maybe not. But right now, we know we can get rid of it and not have any liability or any risk as a county. And that's why the property committee did what they did.
That is committee's recommendation. Commissioner Pearson.
Mr. Chairman, let us keep in mind also that if we revert this property back to the county and then give it to the Alumni Association, the Fisher family can become part of the Alumni Association, but the Alumni Association can't become part of the Fisher family. If the property is given to the Alumni Association, it's governed by a board. And the Fisher family being a part of that could have a voice in whatever takes place with that property. But if you revert that property or if you deed that property to the Fisher family, by law, it's a privately owned piece of property. And I'm sure the Alumni Association is not going to put money into a private piece of property that will be owned by the Fisher family. So we need to keep that in mind. If we deed it to the Fisher family, you lose that support from the Alumni Association because it's privately owned property.
Commissioner Petty.
The concept too that was mentioned is that the possibility that the Rosenwald community lease the property from the Fisher family. That'd be an amicable deal where they can take over possession of the property on a lease form, and then the Fisher family can let them do what they want to with it. So there's an option there that the county would have to be involved in, and that would be a private deal between them. If the Rosenwald community wants the property, that's an avenue to pursue.
Commissioner Arnold.
Yeah, going back to Councilor Maroney, he mentioned that the county could sell, but they couldn't give this property away. I'm not familiar with that. I thought, transfer property, about $1 a year, or just like we did the Madison property, but I don't want to get off in that. I would like to say something, Commissioner Compton, Commissioner Hale. Sounds like, we got something bad here. Let's just put it off on those people that live right in that community, which they put up with now for the last 18 years. Nothing has been done to that school. Of course, Commissioner Hale, you in real estate, I don't think you'd be real interested in going and buying a piece of property that had this situation there with the property that deteriorating. Madison County should be looking out for the people that live here. And that building is there. We don't need to leave that mess there in front of the people that live right there in their community, right across the street and right beside the school.
We ready to vote? Go ahead and state your amendment one more time.
That this property be directed back to Madison County as the contract says, and I will read that. Deed will contain a right of the reverter. Failure to comply with the terms of this contract will result in the automatic reversion of title to the property of Madison County, Tennessee. So it's just a matter of following the contract and doing what we decided to do back in
So
2002.
a yes vote would convert it back to the county, and no vote would vote again on the original amendment from the property committee. Reverse roll call.
Chairman, can we mention the fact again to reiterate that this lady has paid taxes on this property for all these years? And keep that in mind, that that family deserves an opportunity to take that property back.
I agree.
Alexander.
So how do we vote, Cindy?
Yes.
Cindy?
Arnold. Yes.
How do we vote?
Beckham.
No.
No.
Brantley.
I pass.
Brown Claudel.
Yes.
Brown Scott. Bryant.
No.
Bush.
No.
Compton.
No.
Deaton.
No.
Ellison.
Yes.
Gobble.
Yes.
Hale.
No.
Johnson Arthur.
Yes.
Johnson Barber.
No.
Martin.
Pass.
Mercer.
Yes.
Montague.
Yes. Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Petty.
No.
Spearman.
Yes.
Stevenson.
No.
Taylor.
No.
Wall.
No.
Change mine to yes. Yes.
Martin to a yes.
So does that mean we're giving the property?
Wait, hold on. We-
That family deserved it. That's what you stood up and said.
Did you not?
Okay.
And you voted
I'll
yes?
change to a yes. Chairman? Yes.
Change your vote to yes.
You can change your vote.
It goes back to the family.
I got 12 yeses, 11 noes, and 1 absent. Amendment fails. Now we vote on the original amendment that was proposed by the proper committee. Roll call.
What
Can you repeat? Hold on. Repeat it, Patty.
The committee recommendation is that we quit claiming the deeds to the heirs on the property in its entirety and forego any demands from the contractor on the repairs. Is that sufficient?
Right.
Yes.
That's committee recommendation.
Alexander.
Yes.
Arnold.
No.
Beckham.
Yes.
Is that a yes, sir?
Yes.
Thank you. Brantley.
I pass again.
Pass me.
I pass.
Brown Claudel.
No.
Brown Scott. Bryant.
Yes.
Bush.
Yes.
Compton.
Yes.
Deaton.
Yes.
Ellison.
No.
Gobble.
Yes.
Hale.
Yes.
Johnson Arthur.
No.
Johnson Barber.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Mercer.
No.
Montague.
No.
Pearson.
No.
Petty.
Yes.
Spearman.
No.
Stevenson.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Wall.
Yes.
Got 14 yeses, 8 noes, 1 pass. Committee recommendation passes.
I'm sorry, sir. Based upon the vote, I will prepare a quitclaim deed to the heirs.
Having still committee reports.
No, sir. They'll need
we
to
only got
record the
30.
deed. Yes, sir.
This property doesn't belong to Madison County, it's already in Fisher family.
The county retains a reversionary interest. That's what would be being quitclaimed away.
And I don't understand why the county does not own that property.
No, sir, but the county retains a reversionary interest. A deed can convey title in fee simple, which is ownership of the full property, but it can also convey subordinate ownership interests. In this case, it's a reversionary interest that the county held. Other types of interests that are subordinate to fee simple interest can also be transferred via quitclaim deed.
Item number 8, moving right along. We've only got 31 items on here. We're on number 8 right now.
Mr. Chairman, I have no report in the same.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Item number 9, consideration of possible acceptable resolution to rezone property located at 2380 Highway 18 in Meaden. Mr. Stan Pilot is making his way to the front.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, County Commission. I guess it's still morning. This item was presented to the Madison County Planning Commission. It is in the outer region, and they are recommending this rezoning to you. This particular piece of property is a convenience store that has been in existence since the 60s. Back then, when it was developed, it's out there outside the Meaden corporate limits, just past the Pine Ridge Club. I know y'all don't want to admit you know where that is, but it's located out there. When it was developed, there was no zoning in the outer region. Zoning in the outer region didn't come in until '74. So the Pine Ridge Club, the store, there's also a property that used to be a hotel, motel. It was made non-conforming by the fact that it was in existence before the zoning was. In Madison County, the zoning resolution says that non-conforming uses can't be expanded. Mr. Moody, who owns this property, is wanting to improve the property, to add a canopy and new fuel pumps. Based on it being a non-conforming use, it can't be expanded unless you zone it. And since the property's been devoted to commercial use all this time, we still see no problem with the rezoning of this property, and the Madison County Planning Commission has recommended that to you.
It's a public hearing. Anyone want to speak for or against this? You make a motion, officer?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve this.
Second. Have a motion, second. Any discussion?
I believe it came as a committee recommendation, just as a point of order. It came as a committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation.
It came out of the Planning Commission. It's not the same as the committee.
Gotcha.
It's a public hearing. Anyone like to speak for or against this motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. You did great. Item number 10, possible extension of the summer program at Beach Bluff Community Center, presented by Mr. Retired Ed Smith. Go right ahead, Ed.
Thank you. It's a little bit of a misnomer about extending the summer program, but as we all know, the COVID-19 has made lots of changes, and we're adjusting constantly. A few weeks ago, I met with Dr. King and 2 members of the task force there at the school district office. We got several calls, and I know some of you guys did too, from parents regarding virtual school. And so that's why we met. The parents were concerned because they did not have a place for their kids. Their parents were at home and needed to be at home. Parents were at work and needed to be at home.
all of those various factors. So when we met with Dr. King, we discussed this to see if there might be a possibility that Beach Bluff could be used as a virtual learning center. One of the things that would have to be done was the school would have to supply us, or would have to supply 2 teachers or teachers' aides out there to basically be there for the students all day, or for the school hours, I should say. And then we would have one person there, a part-time person to be there just to have the facility open to help if they needed anything, if they needed to know where light switches were, or we need toilet tissue or whatever like that. The schools would operate at whatever hours that they are operating, and we would charge $60 a week for the students to attend. And whether they attended every day or just 2 or 3 days out of the week. We did surveys. That was the first thing we talked about doing, was surveys to see what the interest was. We did the surveys online. We got 45 responses back. Of those, one of the questions was, do we need a virtual supervised learning center? 26 said yes, 17 said no. And then of those, if yes, what time frame would you need for your child? 7:30 to 3:30, which is kind of what the school hours run, or would you need 7:30 to 5:30, which would include a couple of hours later that we would operate and oversee and it would be like an after-school type program. The 7:30 to 3:30 were 14 responses, 7:30 to 5:30 were 22 yeses. And then the last question, would you use Beach Bluff Recreation Center if it was available as a virtual learning center? We had 44 total respondents on that question. 39 said yes, 6 said no. So I sent the survey results over to Dr. King's office. From the time we met till, I guess, last week, kind of things have sort of changed, and they're constantly changing. They announced that students would be going 2 days a week, Monday and Wednesday, or Tuesdays and Thursdays, with Friday sort of being, and correct me, Dr. King, if I'm mistaking or misspeaking here, with Fridays kind of being a day for those students that need some extra help. Then effective Monday, October 19th through Friday, December 18th, school would be in session 4 days a week, and then Fridays, an additional day.
Let me correct that. October 19th, and for the rest of the semester, it'll be 5 days a week, 40 hours.
So we're going to 5 now, so that's what I'm saying. From the time this got written up till now, things have kind of changed again. So anyway, based on the results, like I said, we sent to Dr. King's office. We were kind of looking at, is there a need, what the school district could do, and what not. May not be a need, I don't know now. I mean, like I said, this is changing, but it was mostly for the virtual students and the hybrid students. And what we kind of came to the conclusion of, if we do the program and the school district does the program, there needs to be 20 kids at a minimum there. There would be, we just again charge $60, whether you come to the 3:30 or till 5:30. That, based on the 60 kids, or I'm sorry, based on the 20 kids, the revenue would be $1,200, and the staff cost for us, not the school teachers, not the school teaching assistants, would be $540 a week. So again, I'm not real sure what to ask for at this point in time, because it's a constant change. I just know that there was a need, and we were trying to address that and looking to see if there, where or what we could do. A couple of things that came is that if we do this, we could we could allocate funds for, and if we don't, there's no need out there, if we don't have the 20 kid minimum, or the school district does not need to send or can't send teachers, we won't have the program at all.
How many students do you have?
Well, right now, there's not any students out there. We had 29 at, to start off at the end of the summer. This was after, we had 3 camps this summer. We had 50 and 55 kids in all 3 of those camps. When school got delayed, there was about a month that there was nowhere for them to go. There was no school, there were no summer camps. We had 29 kids the first 3 weeks, and then went down to 24, because some of those kids were in other schools and went back to their school. So, like I said, it's not really an extension of the program, it's a virtual learning center. And again, it would have to be something that the school, you know, allocated teachers to us, and then we would just basically have a person there to man the center while school is going.
Commissioner
going on.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I mean, we've got some kids that have chosen the virtual option that will be 5 days a week through, in the first 9 weeks, it'll be running through, Dr. King, that's through October 24th. And then they could be selecting the second 9 weeks that'll go all the way through Christmas and beyond. So, I mean, I know, Mr. Smith, you don't really know exactly what you're asking for here, but I mean, based on, you know, I'd at least make the motion that if you were to get 20 kids, that we do move forward with this, and that you be allowed to come and ask for those funds to extend this, because I think it's important that those kids do have a center for the families that don't have a place to go. So I'll make the motion that we do.
Have a motion second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Item number 11, we've already covered that. Item number 12, discussion of payout cost accounting.
We brought this before the Financial Management Committee, but some of you may remember that payouts is where we have employees that leave departments, and in the past, it just hit their salary line item. And so what the Budget Committee did this year, they established a call center for the payouts, and an account was set up, but there was no funding in it. So last month, we went back and worked with the chairman of the Budget Committee to look and see what we could do. And so what we're presenting to you today is a proposal that we will look back at remaining funds from prior year turned in by those departments, and 25% would be committed by those departments so that it's not a total draw on fund balance. Now, if they don't have that, we'll have to work with them to see if they had any funds left over. There's a form that they'll submit. We will be able to track it. Would you show that graph again? I know Mayor and the Financial Management asked how we would track it. We'll track it monthly by department. We'll be able to show the percentage. Of course, the largest department that has the payouts is the Sheriff's Department because of the larger workforce that he has and more retiring employees. But this will allocate the departments to have a stake in the payouts. It will be traceable for the commission to see, and also does alleviate the total draw on fund balance. So I wanted to present this to you today.
Any questions? Vote on it. Nothing to vote on. Item number 13, discussion of retirement incentive for county employees. Tony.
For lack of response, I'll assume that's me. So, if you remember last month, we took up out of the budget committee an incentive plan for employees to retire. So we had some really good discussion, and I think there's some good things. I believe you saw some of the savings that go along with that. But one of the issues, and I think the major issue of the discussion had to do whether or not the school system was going to be participating. So we have got the clarification from the school system. So Dr. King, he did submit a letter that said that, and we actually have it on the board. So a letter that he sent that said that the school system did not wish to participate in that. And it's for good reason, you know, why that is. So we totally understand. And in the beginning, it wasn't the intent for the school system to be in it anyway. But I think this just clarifies it for everyone. So with that, we're back at the beginning. From the budget committee, the offering was 30 years plus employees to be offered an early incentive. If they have 35 years or more, then the incentive would be a $12,500 incentive. If they have 30 years up to the 35, it would be a $10,000 incentive. We have a lot of numbers on the board here. These are the things that we went over last month that Karen, she kind of broke it all down and made it a little simpler to look at. If you see, I think go over, I want to see the liability portion. So that's a total payout there to employees if they get, yes, because that's got total incentive payments. So that's if we do the 30 plus, if every one of those employees, which is about 25, 26 employees, if they did that, that's a total payout of $534,000. The other side of the sheet are different situations like potential annual savings if positions are eliminated. So let's say all of those people took the retirement and they were not filled, that's a $1.5 million savings. If those positions were filled at entry rate of pay, so that's based on the salary matrix plan that was adopted by the commission many years ago, it's still kind of followed, is $411,900. If some of those positions, well, if all of them were brought back at the entry rate, but part-time, meaning less than 30 hours a week, so that's based on 29, that we've got a savings of $781,000. So as you can see right there, that's where Karen just used those numbers just for different situations, which none of those situations are going to be 100%. I mean, no matter what. So you don't know what exactly is going to happen. But this, you can see what a worst case is. And you know we're not going to be there. And when I say worst case, that's according to who you're talking to. Worst case being how much money it's going to cost the county in the initial payout. But the return on that investment, that's what we don't know about how long that would take.
Commissioner Taylor.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept this retirement incentive for Madison County employees, excluding Madison County School System.
Second. Have a motion and second. Any other discussion? Commissioner Cobb.
Just, again, just want to point out that we've got the payout is a one-time payout, but the savings are annual savings. So even in our worst-case scenario, that one-time payout is covered plus in 2 years, and then it's a continual savings. And even if everything was paid, was hired back full-time at the same rate, I mean, we're still going to be saving in TCRS and in health insurance. I mean, and we're still going to be having savings regardless. But hopefully our department heads are going to look at this and really see how we can get the full savings. But TCRS is going to be the biggest savings in all of this.
Barwell.
What is the schedule, the proposed schedule for this? When would employees be offered? When would they have to accept by? When would it take effect? What are these things?
That's exactly what we were just talking about, which has to be part of the motion. So it would be during the period of September the 21st, which is today, through November the 9th. The reason for that is because there's a 45-day period that we have to give employees for that. So that's a legality.
Mr. Johnson.
So are y'all excluding the teachers?
Yes.
Yeah.
And their requests? They're the hardest working people in Madison County.
Well, we don't want them to retire. We don't want them to retire.
To pay their gas
Commissioner Alexander.
Chairman, I'd like to amend that motion to include the correct date information and everything that Mr. White just informed us on. Second. That's got to be part of the motion.
Who seconded it?
Well,
Have a motion to amend the motion
to
based on.
include the date information that Mr. White just gave us.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Who's a no? The amendment passes. Bart?
I say no too.
If I'm not mistaken, if an employee chooses to retire, it takes a minimum of 90 days to process your paperwork through Tennessee Consolidated Retirement Service, the TCRS. So there would be a time frame there, like, let's just say somebody decided to retire today, and they filed their application today, that would be October, November, December. It'd be towards the end of December before they got an approval or was able to start receiving money. So from the time that they stop receiving their salary to the time that their benefits start kicking in, there's a gap there that the incentive, I think, could cover part of it, but it would actually minimize the incentive to the employees, in my opinion. I just want to throw that out there.
But, you know, to Road Commissioner Wall's point, if there was no incentive, that gap would still be there. And they're going to retire anyway, and there would be no incentive to be able to fill that gap in. So that's what actually makes this 12-5 a even better situation for them.
Karen?
Fred, did you give me a scenario?
We got that. Karen?
It does not always take 90 days. They tell you that if you're retiring at June 30th. I had an employee that retired December the 1st and started drawing benefits January 15th. Again, Tony and I can work with TCRS to get that taken care of.
We're voting on the original motion? As amended. Roll call.
Alexander.
Yes.
Arnold.
No.
Beckham.
Yes.
Brantley. Brown Claudel.
Yes.
Brown Scott. Bryant.
Yes.
Bush.
Yes.
Compton.
Yes.
Deaton.
Yes.
Ellison.
Yes.
Gobble.
Yes.
Hale.
Yes. Yes.
Johnson Arthur.
Yes.
Johnson Barber.
No.
Martin.
Yes.
Mercer.
Yes.
Montague.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Petty.
Yes.
Spearman.
No.
Stevenson.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Wall.
Yes.
This meeting's going too long.
Yes, 3 noes.
20 yeses and 3 noes. Item number 14, consideration of possible acceptance of the Madison County bond resolution, capital outlay, note refunding acknowledgement, and report. That's also the same as number 23.
Yes.
Karen?
What you have before you, Mr. Chairman, is an option for us to refund 2 issues that were done in 2017, a $9 million issue that was done for 2.48% interest and a $1 million that was done for 2.51%. Currently, the market is at 0.70%, so we could save about $71,000 a year in interest, and over the life of this loan, almost $630,000. So we are asking that we refund and refinance this to a much lower interest rate for the savings of interest on this $10 million that was issued in 2017.
Have a motion by Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, I move that we accept it.
Who's second? Second, Commissioner Alexander. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Item number 15, consideration of possible acceptance of a resolution for copy contract from Circuit Court Kathy Blunt.
Mr. Chairman, this is just a resolution for a copier contract for the circuit court. We've started doing resolutions for each contract that we issue based upon the recommendation of our county attorney, so this is just a recommendation for a lease contract.
Have a motion by Commissioner Brown, second by Commissioner Mercer. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Mr. Taylor passes. We've already dealt with number 16. Number 17, consideration of possible appointment of 9 members and 2 alternates to the Building and Fire Code Advisory Appeals Board by County Mayor. Staggered terms.
Mr. Chairman, y'all received resumes in, per the direction of that code, is to set up a board with different trades represented in that, you work with architects, electricians, so on and so forth. Those are the resumes you've seen. You want to put 2 commissioners on there, Commissioner Montague and Commissioner Hale, and agreed to serve on that, so that would be my recommendation.
You got 9 members already?
Yes.
Okay. I need a motion.
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Mercer, second by Commissioner Wall. Any other discussion? I don't have them. I still don't have them.
They need the names in the record who they're voting on.
Yeah. We need the names. We're waiting on the names.
I've got the resume.
Mr. Chairman, I've got them right here.
All right, read them off.
Bryce Meeks. A. Brett McMillan. Anthony J. Eubanks. Brad Horner. David Robinson. Gregory A. Rowland. Mike Gardner. Melissa Bell Duncan. If I could pass, okay. And Jim Vaughn.
Who was the 2 commissioners?
Montague and Hill.
Montague and Hale.
Do we know who it says staggered terms, do we know who's filling what term? All right.
Jeff, does the code, it says staggered terms, but does the code set out the order?
No, sir, it's not. It's 2, 2, 2, 3. So you'll need to designate those, Mayor, because you're making the appointment, but it is 3 members for 1 year, 2 members for 2 years, 2 members for 3 years, and 2 members for 4 years as the initial construction. Thereafter, as each person's term expires, new people will serve for 4 years each. But you need to designate, if you're appointing them, you need to designate who's going to serve in the three.
Can we do that at the end of the meeting, Mr. Chairman?
He's asking if he can pass that to the end of the meeting.
Jeff and I.
You want to postpone, you know?
No, just the term, the
Yeah.
appointment term.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. We can still vote.
You need to pass it to the end of the meeting and vote on it then.
We'll have to pass at the end of the meeting, then we'll vote on it. We ain't got nobody to vote. They all gone. 18, consideration of possible steps of a resolution to transfer funds from general purpose school funds to federal project funds.
Mr. Chairman, is this not the same item that's dealt with in the amendments?
It is, but there has to be a resolution passed.
Okay.
Yes. This is a resolution that has to be passed prior to the amendment, due to the way that they're moving the funds between the two.
Move it, be
Have a
approved.
motion? Second by who? Mercer. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Item number 20, 19 has been removed. 20 has already been done. 21, consideration and possible approval of update to purchase cards policy.
Mr. Chairman, this was brought before the Financial Management Committee. This is just showing updates that have been made to the purchase card policy, primarily dealing with where it has to be maintained. We've highlighted these changes for the commission, showing that it must be deactivated and a replacement card if it's lost, and also it must be kept in locked departments at all times and not on the employee person. No vote required.
No vote required.
And that number 19.
Skipped it. It was removed.
Item number 22, consideration of possible approval update to travel policy.
Okay, on the travel policy, again, just some updates that we've highlighted here, some things that they are required to turn in their itinerary or agenda of where they're going, and also the mileage must be outlined by Google Maps so that we can identify the mileage to and from for reimbursement. So again, just some informational things to make the commission aware. This will be sent to the departments to update the travel policy.
Item number 24, that's no vote on that. No vote required. Item number 24, appointment of county archivist by county mayor with this board's approval.
Where are we, Mr. Chairman?
24, archivist.
Oh, yeah. Ms. Lori Skelton, who's been with Archive for some time, and she needs to take the place of Tom Hall because we need a designated archivist. I recommend her. Lori Skelton.
Have a motion by Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Compton. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Number 25, appointment of one alternate member to the Madison County Board of Zoning Appeals by this body, a 3-year term. It's a vacant seat. We didn't have anybody, did we? We'll have to.
It was previously a commission. That was previously Commissioner Petty, and then he was voted to the full board, so now you need an alternate. Doesn't have to be a commissioner, but it has been historically.
Anybody want to nominate a commissioner? Have a motion second. Jeff Wall, you've been nominated to the Madison County Board of Appeals. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Appoint one member to the Hatchie River Regional Library Board, 3-year term, and Dietrich and Cumberland. Amy Dietrich. Come on, guys. Have a motion by Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Martin. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Number 27, a member, one member to the Jackson Madison County Library Board, vacant seat.
Harris has something I don't.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Ayers. Mayor?
Library board?
Oh, yeah, you've got a resume from Mr. Philip Mullen, that's who we recommend to.
So moved. Philip Mullins, have a motion, second.
Whose motion?
Hale. Hale, second by Carl Campbell. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? None. Item 28, appointment of 9 members to the Industrial Parks Committee by this body, one-year term, Jerry Smith, Terry Spearman, Adrian Montague, Jeff Wall, Jeff Bush, Jay Bush, William Martin, Breck Beckham, Doug Stevenson. We have 1 vacancy there for Billy Spain. Who do we put on that? I haven't, no.
Commissioner Hill standing up.
Commissioner Hale?
Just a question of procedure. Can we vote on all and leave 1 seat vacant?
We can, yes.
Okay, then I would move that all would retain their seat with the exception of the late Mr. Spain.
Have a motion second by Commissioner Brown. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Actually, sir, I would actually move to appoint Mr. Petty to the vacant seat on that committee.
We already voted.
Can I not bring him forward?
Two-thirds, vote two-thirds to suspend.
Well,
Move to suspend the rules. Second.
Have a motion second to suspend the rules. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Now, but state your motion
So my
again.
motion is to appoint Commissioner Petty to the vacant seat on that committee.
Okay.
Second.
Have a motion second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Item number 29, appointment of County Commission Chair by this body, one-year term, and I will vacate my seat to Commissioner Johnson.
Oh, I'm getting old now, I can't hardly get up. My legs work.
The floor is open for nominations for our chairperson. Doug?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Dayton to be our chairman for the upcoming year.
Second.
Any other nominations?
Move to close nominations. Move to close nominations.
All right.
Second that.
All those in favor of Gary Deaton as chairman, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Second, Claudette. All right.
Thank you, I guess. Item number 30, Chairman and Pro Tem by this body. It's a one-year term, Arthur Johnson incumbent.
Nominate with the name Arthur Johnson.
Have a motion by Commissioner Alexander. Second by Commissioner Hale. Any other nominations? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Item number 31, appointment of 7 members to the Financial Management Committee by this body, one-year term. We have Arthur Johnson, we have County Mayor Jimmy Harris, Gary Deaton, Luther Mercer, Dr. Marlon King.
Should be Joey Hale.
And we've, replacing Billy Spain is Joey Hale and Bart Wall incumbent.
Chairman, I move those names.
Have a motion?
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Brett Beckham. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. See, Joey, you're not the only one.
I'm just very grateful.
Item number 33, appointment of 32, appointment, okay. Appointment of 7 members to the Highway Committee by this body, one-year term, Barbara Johnson, Jay Bush, Barbara Johnson's on there twice, she's so good on that committee. Terry Spearman, Carl Alexander, and Mike Taylor, Tommy Gobble, and Aaron Ellison. We've got, Mike Taylor is wanting to step down, Breck Beckham has been put in his place.
That's already been voted on, that was just a typo.
We voted on.
That's already been done. It's
Highway
just
Committee's been-
supposed to say Brett's name instead of Mike's.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
We had a motion on that?
Do we have a motion on that? Claudel did, and Joey Hale second.
Thank you.
Did you overlook that? Number 33, appointment of 12 members to the Municipal Oversight Committee by this body. Jay Bush, Jason Compton, Jeff Wall, Tony White, Matthew Preston, Michelle Sellers, Barry Smith. Barry has got to come off there. Hasn't he? Bart Walls, Kim Tedford, Tina Singleton, Holly Keller, and Kathy Blunt. We have to
You're gonna have to replace.
have to replace Barry Smith.
Kieran's actually on there as well.
Do I?
Kieran's actually on there as well, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could just leave 11,
Just leave it at 11. Put Gary in there. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Second.
That's what the motion is.
The motion
What?
to put Gary on there?
You need a motion as to who's being nominated.
Who you nominate?
Not everybody is on.
That's Mary Smith, is that?
Barry's coming off.
Barry's gotta come out.
Does that have to be somebody in the sheriff's department?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll nominate Gary Irvin, Mr. Chairman.
Gary Everton.
Second.
Have a motion second.
And then, so someone read the other names, sorry?
And add Karen's name to it. Okay, do you want me to read them off?
Well, I would also nominate Karen Bell. She's already.
I was added last year.
She was added.
So you're just not on the list.
Right.
That's what I just did.
So that gives us 12 then.
Do you want me to read them?
Yeah, read.
Okay, so it should say Jay Bush, Jason Compton, Jeff Wall, Tony White, Matt Preston, Michelle Sellers. It'll now be Gary Irwin, Bart Walls, Kim Tedford, Tina Singleton, Holly Keller, Kathy Blunt, and Karen Bell. That's what you're voting on.
That's my motion.
That's your motion. Do we have, who was who seconded that?
I think Mr. Bell did.
Mr. Barton did. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Okay, do you wanna go back and do,
Y'all got it together yet?
I think you're ready?
Yeah.
You ready for that?
Yeah. What item was that?
17? It was number
17?
Number 17.
We gotta redo 17. Consideration of possible appointment of 9 members, an alternate to the Building and Fire Code Advisory Appeal Board by county mayor, staggered terms.
Okay, here's the regular members. 1-year term, Brad Horner, Commissioner Montague, Commissioner Hale. 2-year terms, Marissa Duncan, Mike Gardner. 3-year term, Brett McMillan, Dave Robinson. 4-year term, Jeff Vaughn, Greg Rowland, and 2 alternates that are appointed for 4 years as well, Bryce Meeks and Anthony Eubanks.
Is that already on the floor?
Yeah, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
A motion second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Brett, second. Now we're going to item number 34, attorney-client meeting, closed session.
Mr. Chairman, could I make a motion before we get to that?
Yes, sir.
That
we, this body, appoint a committee to study the fireworks in the county. I'll make that motion.
You have a motion to study fireworks in the county.
Suspend the rules first.
Got a motion to suspend the rules.
Make a motion, we suspend the rules.
Have a motion to suspend the rules. Second. Second by Commissioner Hale. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Now we have a motion on the floor to study the possibility of making fireworks legal in Madison County. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. All in discussion.
Who's that being assigned to? What committee?
We don't have a committee.
We appoint one.
The motion is to create a committee.
Oh, okay, so create a
Pass it,
committee.
you'll have to populate.
Another committee? We can't just do that within side one?
We could,
That
yeah.
exists already?
We could.
One that you're on will be none. Well, I'm just thinking, I could be an alternate on that one, maybe. I don't know, it's just an idea to maybe consolidate, we have a lot of committees already, just for one topic, and then it would.
I think that's a good idea.
Is there an option that would fit well into, Mr. Brody, do you know?
Well, there's nothing wrong with assigning something to a particular committee, but at the moment you have a motion on the floor to create this committee. So you have to make a determination
Well,
on
I
that
guess
first.
I would make it a motion to amend it to assign it to a committee, but I don't know which one to assign it to.
I mean, you can
Finance.
You have to make that motion.
I can't tell you how to make your motion.
Finance.
Okay, I would move that we amend his motion to study, to continue studying it, but to assign it to financial management instead of creating a new committee.
Second.
Have a motion and a second.
Did he say to make it legal or illegal?
We're just gonna study it,
Study.
Well, I mean, what did Tommy say?
to study it.
Okay, so the motion on the floor that's been seconded is a motion. If this amendment passes, you will then have an amendment to send us, to create a subcommittee of the Finance Committee. Okay.
No,
No.
just create a subcommittee.
That's what
I thought
we
that's-
amended the motion.
You're simply saying to send this to the.
To-
Just
Send it to finance
instead of creating a committee.
Okay, my apologies. Misunderstood.
No, I apologize, it's definitely probably me,
Commissioner Brown.
definitely probably.
Mr. Chairman, what committee is it going to?
Finance.
Finance. Okay, I will draw my second, to the motion, to the written motion. Because these fireworks hit different parts of the county differently. And the finance committee, existing committee, this wouldn't be a standing committee anyway, we do that all the time. We need to start to address that from the legality, the safety, as well as the impact of the total community.
Currently, there's a motion on the floor to amend the original motion to send this to the Finance Committee. Assuming this motion passes, then you will vote on the original motion as amended, and as that original motion has been seconded, you cannot withdraw your second, it's already on the floor. So this is now a vote on whether or not to amend the original motion to send this matter
To
the Finance Committee.
Who determines who's going to be on this committee?
It's already there. Finance Committee. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Nay.
Mr. Brown. Now we're voting on the original motion that it's been amended. All in favor say aye.
What was the vote on, what was the last vote, Mr. Chairman? You took a voice vote. What was the vote total?
Total. It was
3 noes.
3 noes.
Voice vote.
But
He
how
said
many-
majority voted.
How many were for it?
How many were for it?
How many yeas?
How many no votes you had?
My point is, you don't have a full roster in the room. You
All
have
right,
to have
roll
13
call.
votes to pass anything. So
Roll
you need to
call.
Know how many you've got.
We're
This
voting
is-
on your motion.
No, sir. This is, you just took a voice vote on whether or not to amend the original motion to send this matter to the Finance Committee. You took a voice vote, but you don't have a full roster of commissioners in the room. You have to have 13 votes to pass anything, so I asked for how many yeas you had. The clerk said he wasn't able to determine that from the voice vote. So you need a roll call vote to determine how many yeas you have. You have a limit, some commissioners have left, you don't have a full roster, and you had seven.
Roll call.
Alexander. Arnold. Beckham.
Yes.
Brantley. Brown Claudette. Brown Scott. Bryant.
Pass.
Bush.
Pass.
Compton.
Yes.
Deaton.
No.
Ellison. Gobble.
No.
Hale.
Yes.
Sir, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. Johnson Arthur.
No.
Johnson Barber. Martin.
No.
Mercer.
No.
Montague.
No.
Pearson.
No.
Petty.
Yes.
Spearman.
You go.
Stevenson.
No.
Taylor. Wall.
Yes.
All right, I've got 5 yes, 10 no.
5 yeses, 10 noes, 4 pass,
5 absent.
5 absent.
That's on the amendment.
So the
Amendment failed.
amendment failed, now you're back to Commissioner Gobble's original motion to create a committee to look into fireworks in Madison County.
Yeah, we'll have roll call. Everybody understand the motion? Everybody understand the motion? We're voting on the original motion to create a committee, study fireworks. Roll call.
Alexander.
Yes.
Arnold. Beckham.
Yes.
Brantley.
Yes.
Brown Claudette.
Yes.
Brown Scott. Bryant.
Yes.
Ma'am. Ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Bush.
Yes.
Compton.
Yes.
Deaton.
No.
Ellison. Gobble.
Yes.
Hale.
No.
Johnson Arthur.
No.
Johnson Barber.
No.
Martin.
No.
Mercer.
No.
Montague.
No.
Pearson.
Yes.
Petty.
No.
Spearman. Stevenson.
No.
Taylor. Wall.
Yes.
Gary, did we get overtime?
Ma'am?
Did we get overtime pay?
Yes, ma'am, you sure do.
10 yes, 9 no.
10 yeses,
9 no.
9 noes, motion fails. Well, we got, I'm on the 34th attorney-client meeting, closed session. Do we need to take a little break, 5 minutes?
Yes.
Have a 5-minute break, but be back here as quick as you can get back. Any amendments or transfers to general fund, school department, capital project, highway department, debt service, juvenile court service for budget year 2019, 2020, Commissioner Johnson.
If it's all right, I'll make this as brief as possible.
That's all right.
All of you have had these amendments, and perhaps you've studied them. If any of you have questions on any of them, feel free to ask, and we'll try to get an answer. Fund 141, general purpose schools, item 1, $2,500,000. This amendment will transfer local monies to federal projects, and there's another budget amendment on here that will accept that, but when the federal money comes in, this money will come back to the other.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Item 2, $7,675 insurance recovery.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Item 3, technology, $5,180.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Item 4, $600 coordinated school health grant.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Fund 142, school federal projects, item 5, $2,500,000. This is to accept this into what would the federal projects would do.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Fund 177, educational capitals, item 6, $2,970 insurance recovery.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Item 7, Sheriff's Department, $7,981.05 insurance recovery.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Item 8, Finance, $4,536 refund for overpayment of coat dues.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Item 9, $2,500 live burn funds.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Item 10, EMA, $1,469,760 to set up COVID-19 grant.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Item 12, Health Department Immunization Services, $80,000.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
You skipped 11.
Any opposed? None.
Let's go back. It's
11.
been pointed out that I skipped 11. Sheriff's Department, $14,104. Grant money received for ballistics vest.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Item 13, $7,462.08.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Item 14, Sheriff's Department, $4,800. Agreement between Madison County Sheriff's Office and Crane Division.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Item 15, Health Department, $346,640, aligning to year-end to date expenses.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Item 16, from fund balance, finance, $100,000 legal fee for Mir versus Madison County.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Item 17, Sheriff, $6,999, replacing PO voided out last year due to incorrect company name.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Item 18, $5,803.66, termination payout for building department employee.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Item 19, $130,000. Roof is over years old and has new leak every month.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? Commissioner Hale.
Mr. A, with the bid process, how many bids did we go with that 130? How many bids did we receive? Okay. Is it counterintuitive to fund it before we get bids?
I had it. I was planning on getting it out and just
Well, doesn't that tell them what we're willing to pay? I mean,
That's just a state law. We can't get something out, we don't have the money already allocated to pay for it. Correct, Steve?
Yes, sir.
that is wild.
That's why they get guesstimates.
I started saying, he can get estimates, as far as what we're looking at. We can go ahead and do that.
Well, thank you. Where did 130 come from if we didn't have an estimate, right? We have to have an estimate. So can we get 3 estimates, or do we just go off of one estimate, or?
We voted to have that.
I've gotten an estimate from one of the roofers last year. We pulled it up, did me a favor, pulled it up on the GPS, and figured what it would probably cost.
Sure. Which roofer was it?
Elite.
Elite? Okay. Goodness. It just seems backwards to commit the money before we know how much it's gonna cost. And if it comes in under or over, then we're having to bring it back up. So, I mean, I'm just not trying to keep us here, but does that make sense? Talking to a brick wall?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this came up during the capital budget, and the capital budget committee, at that time, it was $125,000 back in April, May, and they decided to push it out. Of course, we didn't fund anything in capital this year
Sure.
except for the grants,
And
so.
I'm definitely not trying to slow down the process of getting the roof, because it's obviously necessary. Somebody keeps texting me about drops on his desk or something, I don't even know. It's not true. Okay, thanks. Glad we accomplished that.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No.
No.
Got 2 noes. Commissioner. Got Hale, Compton. Petty pass.
Item 20, Finance, $31,000.
I don't know how this works. Did you just pass it?
Yeah.
No, it passed.
Okay.
He just passed on the vote.
Finance, $31,414.85. Termination payout for Sheriff's Department employee.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Finance, $21,613.88. Termination payout for Sheriff's Department employee in August.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
I reckon that's all I have. That's all of them, Chair.
Yes, sir.
That's everything. That takes care of item number 35, number 36, election of notary public. Have a motion by Martin, second by Mercer. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
I believe one of the commissioners was going to make a recommendation on the Ag Committee, on behalf of Mr. Spearman, but I don't know which commissioner that was.
Do we have a resume for this
We
person?
do, it's in the packet, Agnes, DeVentry.
You have the name, sir?
Agnes DeVentry
Okay, I have it here, but I have to find it.
is who,
She'll be replacing Felicia Farfula, who passed away. Her name's Agnes DeVentry, is the recommendation.
I just want to be sure we have it.
yeah, we've got it.
So, we need to make the motion to suspend the rules to do this, Mr. Attorney?
Well, it was a committee recommendation, but the committee chairman's not here, but I think he's making it through Commissioner Johnson. So you don't need to suspend the rules for a committee recommendation. It's coming from a committee recommendation.
What's the person's name?
Agnes DeVentry.
Agnes
DeVentry.
DeVentry. Committee recommendation, no second required. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Did we vote on elected notary report? We did. Did we vote on that? Yes, we did. Number 37, any and all matters related to or connected with matters set forth in items 1 through 36.
Motion adjourned.
Have a motion to adjourn. Roll call.
Alexander.